Hello! This video is going to go over how I was targeted by Argentine harassment and doxing groups linked to the Milei government, who tried to dox and harass me and to incite people into killing me, which actually resulted in some people trying and evidently failing. Concurrent with this, I was targeted by a pro-Israel doxing and harassment organization linked to prominent pro-Israel social media figures, who are still, to this very day, kind of farting into the wind, spamming social media with claims that I was convicted of child sex crimes, clearly with the intent to get people to target me in real life. And now, more than a year after all that began, the YouTuber Kraut has joined forces with both of those groups, spreading those exact same defamatory allegations in the process, in a rather pathetic attempt to frame the people who did all of that to me as actually being my victims and thus cancel me. All because, and I shit you not, this really is it, I made a video that responded in part to one of his videos. That's all. And honestly, I thank him for that, because I wanted to make a video about this stuff for a while, but I couldn't really figure out how to frame it in a way that would be interesting or at all valuable, because I just don't consider things that happen to me personally to be that interesting to talk about. I usually try to keep them off my channel and make content that is at least of some political or historical importance. So I had a lot of other ideas for videos that I wanted to make first. And then as I was working on those videos, I kept coming up with more ideas for videos and I would then make those. And that process just kept repeating and I never really got around to covering this. However, a fellow YouTuber having a pathetic meltdown and inventing this elaborate narrative where I'm like the leader of some sort of international criminal mafia that's been harassing him and hundreds of others for like an obscenely long time, and teaming up with actual fascist organized harassment groups who tried to get me killed just because he's unable to respond to me debunking him on a historical issue, in my opinion, makes things quite a bit more entertaining than they otherwise would have been, and also a lot funnier. So it's inspired me to finally whip this up and cover all this stuff. So here we are. Now I'm going to provide plenty of evidence for what I'm saying here, as not only are these groups and their links to the Milei government something that has been openly covered in the Argentine press numerous times, but also because I collected lots of evidence on these people to provide to the police, and some of them are presently under criminal investigation as a result. Yeah, this is actual serious stuff, and you'll see why. I was originally going to make 2 videos on this topic. One was going to be titled something like, What Happens to You When You Criticize Israel? Going over the coordinated pro-Israel defamation and harassment campaign against me. And another one which would have been titled, The Milei Government, a jobs program for losers, going over how Milei's government has informally hired a bunch of disaffected online losers to dox, harass, and attempt to incite violence against pretty much anyone they see who criticizes him and his government. Instead of that, I'm just going to draw upon my own experience to cover both of them at once here, all in chronological order, all the way up to the most recent development of YouTuber Kraut teaming up with these people to try and breathe new life into their failed campaign against me, all because he's so fragile that he believes that refuting his YouTube videos is harassment. So yeah, there's really not going to be any educational value to this video at all, though I guess it will shed some light on how organized Zionist harassment groups operate, and what could happen to you if you are a public figure who is uncompromisingly against Israel. Also, the stifling of free speech in Argentina under the Milei government, and I guess the fact that Kraut is just like a pathetic loser who gets so shaken by videos responding to him that he teams up with fascists to engage in doxing and defamation. So yeah, just that forewarning in case you came here expecting to get something of educational worth out of this, you might not. Anyway, so let's get started from the very beginning. So this story begins back in early 2023 when a post appeared on the YouTuber Vorsch's subreddit claiming that I had been arrested in Argentina. And the evidence that they provided for this was an alleged Discord screenshot of me admitting that I was about to be arrested because of edgy material that I allegedly had on my hard drive. And also like a small little picture of someone with a beard being arrested, which was actually a guy who was arrested for attacking someone in Spain, and not me. Now, I think it goes without saying that this screenshot was just transparently fake. This sort of thing is extremely easy to fake. Pretty much anyone can do it. I don't know about you guys, but I was not an edgy teen, so I feel like there's a lot of projection going on in here, like someone else projecting their greatest fears of things on their hard drive being found. And I honestly thought this was hilarious when it first showed up, so I made like a video or two just laughing at it.
Hey guys, so I've just found out via this post on Orsh's subreddit that I've been arrested. As you can see, I'm extremely arrested right now. I'm so arrested. I've been deprived of my liberty. This is terrible. I've done so many awful things. I can't believe I've been arrested. Finally, my crimes have caught up with me. Damn it, this sucks. Yeah. It sucks being arrested. Hello everyone, I'm currently at the prison restaurant, really enjoying my arrest. We have a nice wine glass here. We're having some nice wine in the prison restaurant. It sucks to be arrested right now. Hello everyone, I'm reporting in again from jail. This is one of the 5 different jail restaurants that we have in the jail. It's a very nice jail. So I am still jailed. Just reporting in again to remind you all that I am in prison. I have been in prison for my crimes. Thank you. So yeah, quite clearly I was not arrested. Nonetheless, Vorsh's community very much ate this up. Honestly, I don't know, I feel like there's something wrong with people's brains that they just believe stuff like this uncritically. You know, it's trivially easy to edit a fake screenshot of someone on social media. Anyone can do it. And, you know, you would think if someone had been arrested for supposedly serious crimes or whatever they were trying to imply here, there would be more than just a random Discord screenshot, you know, like, I don't know, a news article or something like that, or court documents or police reports or something official. But that apparently doesn't occur to everyone. And honestly, quite frankly, I'm totally fine with people who would believe something like this just off the basis of seeing this, not liking me, because if someone is inclined to believe something like this, then I really don't think that they are intellectually equipped to be able to digest my videos in the first place, and I'd rather keep them away. Anyway, so the context of this is that Vorsh is a YouTuber who I had made videos about in the past, mostly on my second channel, calling him out for him engaging in sexual harassment of a woman in the past, and also calling him out for his constant, incredibly uncomfortable obsession with, for the purposes of YouTube censorship, I will call, I guess, inappropriate images of children. So basically, his community decided that it would be acceptable to accuse me of having committed serious crimes against children and being arrested for them in retaliation for me going over things that Vorsh has factually said about children and denouncing them. You know, evidence versus no evidence. This is proportionate, you know, this is, to them, this is fair. Anyway, so about a year after this, Vorsh accidentally showed on his stream in a controversy that has been covered ad nauseum by now, inappropriate drawn images of children that he had on his hard drive, confirming everything that I and others had been saying about him for like a year or two at that point.
This is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
So yeah, what more is there to say about that? But this is important context because yeah, I found this absolutely hilarious at the time because it was so obviously ridiculous and stupid, but I didn't consider the possibility that other malicious actors would pick this up and just spam it everywhere as if it were real, which is precisely what happened soon after. So anyway, let's fast forward like 10 months after that. So I'd never really engaged much with Argentine politics despite living in Argentina. Not so much because I didn't care about it, but rather because most of my audience speaks English, and whenever I would say something in Spanish, most people simply didn't understand it. It would get zero engagement, no one would see it, and I just kind of got demoralized, I guess. But in December 2023, late December 2023, I was just like looking at my feed on Twitter, and something popped up which caught my eye. It was people complaining about being doxxed by an account that was literally called the Ministry of Doxing. And this was an account claiming to be linked to the Milei government that was doxing critics of Milei left and right. Something that is unfortunately facilitated a lot in Argentina by the fact that the government databases of like people's names, address, everything like that are just publicly available. So doxing people is absurdly easy. And honestly, it's ludicrous and embarrassing, and I simply do not understand why the Argentine government is so lax of people's personal information. So I saw that on my feed, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna look into this. So I searched the account's post, and within about 5 minutes, I found that the guy who made the account used to use the account as his personal account. He just changed the name and handle and the avatar and started doxing people. So he had like his real name and personal details literally just right there on the same Twitter account. So I drew attention to the fact that this guy who was just
doxing people left and right, harassing people left and right, trying to sick like basically fascist harassment groups on people, just had this information on his account right there in public. So I drew attention to that, and the guy ended up deleting his accounts and deleting his entire online presence. And then after that, like a bunch of copycat accounts showed up, all of which had made the exact same mistake that guy had. Now, obviously, to clarify, that's not doxing, okay? Doxing is not when you're running accounts literally called like the Ministry of Doxing, actively doxing people, and someone spends 2 seconds searching your tweets to find that you literally just had all of your personal information right there the whole time. So I was doing something incredibly simple that literally anyone could have done, and honestly, kind of embarrassing for the Argentine like center and left wing that they needed me to do that for them. But this got me a lot of attention in Argentina. Previously, I knew people, but I wasn't like super involved in formal politics or anything, but this got me like 20,000 followers in a day. And they all sort of considered me to be like the anti-doxing leader. Like they thought I was like some sort of like zero cool hacker or something who was doing something really special like Batman or something. But I mean, I was literally someone who had just come across a bunch of people being dickheads on social media, engaging in doxing and harassment, and I just spent like 2 seconds looking into them. And that was all that it took for their entire thing to come tumbling down. And I didn't really want to be involved in it beyond that. But I started getting like lots of emails, lots of DMs from people who were looking for help. The doxing problem of libertarians in Argentina doxing people, or far-right fascists, whatever you want to call them, like Milei supporters in Argentina doxing people, was massive and had been massive for many years beforehand. And I only really learned that then. Like, for example, one of the most notorious right-wing doxers in Argentina, who goes by the name Fat Dan, Gordo Dan, is a very close associate of Javier Milei today, who still runs doxing campaigns against his critics constantly. So this was reported actually in the media. As I said, there will be an article linked in the description. It's the one that you're seeing right now on the screen. And basically what happened is me, as like a random person, not really involved in Argentine politics up until this point, came upon this stuff on my feed. And within a few hours, my name was like Voldemort for like the Argentine online libertarian doxers. Like their entire doxing apparatus just fell over in more or less 1 or 2 nights, out of fear of like this mythical figure of BadEmpanada, like the Batman against the libertarian doxers, which, was a bit much. I wasn't really interested in continuing to do that. I did try to help the people who messaged me, but I mean, in many cases, it simply wasn't possible because they were getting harassed by people who were, more protective of their identities than the guys who were doxing people who just had literally all of their personal information on the accounts that they were doxing people from. However, the Argentine libertarian doxing community was very much scorned by me, and they were not just going to let me get off so lightly. No. So what very quickly happened is they tried to dox me. However, they quickly found out that this didn't really faze me in the way that they had thought it would, because I don't have any fear of people knowing who I am, like they clearly did, so it just didn't really work on me. So what they ended up doing was accusing me of child crimes, in part based on that initial Vorsh post that we just went over, because they Googled me, like trying to find dirt on me, I guess, and the only thing that they could find was that, and they just ran with it. So this post popped up, which was seen by apparently 220,000 people, with 500 retweets and 1.6 thousand likes, claiming that I had been exposed as a pedophile, and saying that we have looked for his criminal record in Australia and he has a civil case against him. And he also has cases against him for pedophilia in Australia. His username is @BadEmpanada. Take care of your children. He lives in Argentina. And attached is incredible evidence from the website Court Data Australia, which, to be clear, this guy would have had to pay like $30 to access, claiming to show a civil case against me. This screenshot is actually edited. I initially thought that it was a screenshot of my grandpa, because he has the same name as me, but when I went and looked, no, this actually just doesn't even exist at all. This guy just made this up. And then a picture of my face from my Instagram, and then a screenshot of a video by Infrared has.
And yeah, that's clearly incredibly dispositive evidence. I don't know, is dispositive the right word? Like convincing, I don't know, what would you say? Like smoking gun evidence of these claims against me. And then he continues saying, this guy just walks in the street like he's never done anything. He has a YouTube and an Instagram, and he apologizes for terrorism and Hamas. And why don't the police do something about it? Are we all crazy? He should be a prisoner right now. So when I initially saw this, I was like kind of worried, because in tandem with this, these people were looking for where I lived, and they thought they had found where I lived through that database that I mentioned earlier, but it was not, because I, had the foresight to register my address with one of those companies that gives you like a tax domicile that you can put on forms and stuff, rather than the address of where you actually live. So I was thinking, there's like 1,000 people tweeting at me about how I'm supposedly wanted for serious crimes in Australia, or I don't know, I guess in Argentina too. I'm not exactly sure what the narrative they were going with here. It doesn't exactly make much sense when you really think about it. And what happens if one of those people sees me or something in the street? So like, all that really ended up happening is that day I went to the gym, and I was a bit more guarded than usual. And yeah, if you can believe it, I have been to a gym before. I know I don't look like it. And then it took me like 2 days of like being slightly on edge to realize these people don't go outside. The sort of person who sees this, believes it, and is so outrageous to act upon it is sitting at home and just watching anime and playing video games all day while like participating in pro-melee doxing groups. So I very quickly realized that, and just sort of got back to making videos. So these people did continue to tweet stuff about me like constantly for months after that. Like tons of them would show up saying, oh, hey, you're like a convicted criminal in Australia. How dare you be in Argentina? Blah, 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 blah. But then soon following this, my anti-Israel stance got the attention of an organized harassment organization called the Shirion Collective. And they started like showing up, responding to me, accusing me of, the same things those people were, with the same screenshots from the Vosh subreddit and stuff like that. So the Shirion Collective doesn't really exist anymore, though its users are still around. It sort of collapsed because in June of last year, the leader of the group, who was paying its participants to dox and harass people in an attempt to incite others to kill them, was ousted then as Daniel Linden, who's basically one of those guys who manages accounts on OnlyFans. I mean, come on, dude. And after that, the group sort of fell apart. It was basically a Telegram group through which they coordinated harassment campaigns against people on social media and like mass reporting campaigns and stuff like that. So initially, Shirion started responding to me, spamming like fake screenshots they made of me, accusing me of the same sort of stuff that the Argentine far right was. But it kind of failed to get much attention despite their best efforts, because at the end of the day, no one really followed their accounts except a bunch of bots and members of the organization itself, so they didn't really have much reach. On January 12th, 2024, they made this fake screenshot and started posting it everywhere, but they didn't really get much dissemination outside of their own circle. So at that point, they decided to try and enlist someone with a bigger following to spread their defamation against me. And the guy who ended up doing this for them was a total loser known as Drew Pavlou. Drew Pavlou is basically a guy who, ever since he was like 18 years old, has been doing nothing but framing himself as like a really brave anti-Chinese government activist while failing completely to ever actually hold down a job or anything at all. And a couple of years into that grift, he got noticed by Australian far-right financiers, chief among them a guy named Simon Fenwick. Simon Fenwick is a far-right millionaire who is deeply involved in the funding of many, many causes on the far right in Australia, and also, coincidentally, pro-Israel groups. So Drew Pavlou ended up getting hired by Simon Fenwick to shift from his previous grift, which was like, I am critiquing China from the left, I'm a progressive, to a new grift, which is much more openly right-wing and very much overtly pro-Israel. And this is very much a matter of public record. There was a case where Drew Pavlou was forced to disclose who pays him. Turned out that he received $25,000 from a company owned by Simon Fenwick. He's also openly thanked and praised Simon Fenwick numerous times for his support. It's open, it's clear, it's obvious that he's getting paid by this guy and possibly by others to basically just be a far-right troll online who defames people in mostly abortive attempts to get them to stop critiquing the causes that Simon Fenwick and others like him support. And Pavlou's horrible behavior under the influence of this far-right money became so extreme that he actually ended up getting expelled from Amnesty International for it. So Shirion evidently got in contact with Drew Pavlou, and he was very, very happy to start spreading the same stuff that they were spreading about me. And this new defamation campaign was centered around the screenshot that Shirion had fabricated and started trying to spread 3 days earlier. And wouldn't you know it, the fake Discord screenshot from that Vorsh subreddit post that we went over at the beginning of the story. Interestingly, this also followed me getting a number of messages from Drew Pavlou, which included things like my passport number and my address. And this happened on December 2nd, 2023, which was more than a month before he and Shirion Collective's doxing and defamation campaign against me began, which happened on January 12th to 15th, 2024. So I think it's pretty clear that they had this planned in the pipeline for quite a while. Also very interesting is that right exactly around the time this was happening, I found this out a lot later, but the YouTuber Keffels bizarrely was doxing me at the same time. Like she openly said in a DM with someone, well I guess that's not open, but she said to someone, I believe it was her editor, in DMs that were later leaked, that she hired an Argentine private investigator to find my address and my docs and all that sort of stuff. So I have to, wonder if there was some sort of link between this and this Shirion Drew Pavlou doxing / defamation campaign. That would be fucking wild. It's just really suspicious that all this was happening at the same time. Like Keffel's doxing me, Drew Pavlou and Shirion doxing me and defaming me, and the Argentine far right doxing me and defaming me. Literally all happened in December 2023 and January 2024. So let's take a look at the new purported screenshot of something that I purportedly allegedly posted, according to these people, which they were using to accuse me of basically, the sort of thing that gets people to hunt and kill you. Obviously, for precisely that reason, that's what they wanted to happen to me. So you have the original Vorsh subreddit screenshot, which I went over, and then you have this purported screenshot, which, spoiler, isn't real. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, you might remember this tweet from Ethan Klein, noted genius, holding it up to the camera in one of his anti-Hassan rant videos and saying, this is a real tweet. Keep it in mind too, because it's gonna come up later when we get to the Kraut part. So before I provide really smoking gun evidence that this is just plainly faked, I want you to look at it and think with your brain so we can have at least some sort of teaching moment here. Does anything seem off about this to you? I would say that someone tweeting something like this, it probably wouldn't get 4 replies, 122 retweets, and 223 likes. I don't think that's very likely. You also have to think who types like this? I certainly don't. I don't think I've ever said anyways in my life. Thirdly is that who even claimed that Hamas raped a bunch of babies and kids? Did anyone make that claim? As far as I know, they claim that Hamas massacred 40 babies, which never happened, and actually only 1 baby in total was found to have died on October 7th. So it's like a perfect storm of things that should clue you in immediately that this is fake. Social media screenshots are pathetically easy to fake. It's really like Facebook grandma stuff at this point to see something like this and just immediately believe it uncritically. But anyway, so my account was suspended on the date that this screenshot purports to have been posted. So obviously I could not have tweeted it anyway. I do really, really wish that I had been on Twitter on October 7th, 2023 though. God, that's actually one of my biggest regrets ever. I'll never get to have that chance again. It was only unsuspended on November 6th after I did the thing which, if you don't know, is commonly works on Twitter, where you say I am a far right Trump supporter and I was mass reported by the cancel culture police, please unban me, and then they just unban you. So I did that and they unbanned me, and that was in November 6th, as you can see here. So I literally could not have posted this, aside from the fact that it's obviously fake anyway. What a coincidence that the first time this screenshot ever actually appeared was in January, 3 months after it was purportedly posted. Wow, it's almost like that's when someone made it. Nonetheless, of course, these people aren't interested in the truth. They're interested in defamation. They're interested in shutting down anyone who is against, Milei or against Israel. And for them, that is what spamming this fake shit and these obviously defamatory false allegations is all about. And ultimately, that's really what it is for a lot of the people aside from them who also see this sort of thing and then start spreading it. They're just interested in shitting on a YouTuber they don't like with any means necessary. And it's honestly kind of pathetic and weird to be that obsessed. So anyway, fast forward a few months. The Drew Pavlou Shirion defamation campaign resulted in absolutely nothing, but meanwhile, the Argentine far-right defamation campaign continues. And by this point, the pro-Milei harassment groups were more organized and they were actually directly or indirectly linked to the government, in ways that we're going to be getting into more detail in a little bit. Like, I was still receiving tons of threats telling me that, they were planning to come and try to kill me and, calling me Palestinian as a slur. And another genius who will come up later, by the way, this guy is important to this story because Kraut is actually trying to frame the boss of this person, the one who orders him around, as being one of my victims. So he sent me this, sending me a picture of a house that I'd never seen in my life, but apparently he thinks it's mine, along with another house that I also don't know what it is, but I don't really know. These guys aren't that competent. The important thing is that he seemed to think that he had found where I live or something, and he said, "In which of these two houses is your daughter?" Don't have a daughter that I know of, by the way, but again, the thought here is the problem, not the actual competence of the people making the threat. Or is she in Argentina with you? Let me know, because I want to give her a visit like those that you give her. I'm going to drug her, and I'm going to teach her that she has a new father. And then he asked, "Did the flag arrive? In the coming days, I'm going to send you more gifts." So clearly he was sending packages to an address that he thought was mine, but which wasn't. I never claimed that these people were competent, but they were very malicious, and they seemed to think that they were on the cusp of finding me and killing me and hurting me and my family. In this case, the family member that he was citing didn't exist, but and this is just a tiny little taste of the threats that I was getting daily. Not just threats, but threats with addresses tied to them, threats with specifics. I was getting around a dozen per day at the very least, and these people were talking about this stuff pretty much all day in their group chats and their spaces on X. It was the obsession of dozens, if not hundreds of Argentine right-wing losers to dox me and get someone to kill me for months and months. Basically, the gist of it is they tried to organize among them someone to go to the place where they thought that I lived. I did not live there. They actually, hilariously came up with 4 or 5 different candidates for places where they thought that I lived, addresses where they thought that I lived, none of which were ever where I actually lived or had ever lived, and I'm not entirely sure how they did that. But yeah, they tried to organize among them to get someone to come to my house and kill me, find someone who could come and kill me. And they did this all, really openly and stupidly. They would talk about this stuff in Twitter Spaces, which are open voice chats that anyone can join and listen to, and group chats that were really easy to get into. So, they weren't exactly the sharpest knives in the shed. And that's part of how they've been so useful for the government, because the government, basically what they do is, for most of them, all they need to do to get them spamming pro-government stuff and harassment and doxing 24/7 is to pay for their Twitter premium account so they can get ad revenue from their spamming. And that's enough incentive for them to dedicate their lives to it. It's fucking bizarre, man. But eventually, they did find a genius candidate who was willing to just openly say, on a Twitter account where he posts his real photos and everything, that he was going to kill me. Right then and there, he was going to kill me, and he invited everyone who wanted to come with him to do it. And concurrently, he was posting pictures of the apartment building where he thought that I lived. It's clear what they were trying to do here. Now, if I do say so myself, this fella has the most divorce energy of anyone I've ever seen in my life. So that could explain how he got to this stage in his life. He looks about 50, 55 years old. I mean, he doesn't look like that. I know that's how old he is because he's currently being criminally investigated / prosecuted for this. And I mean, his username is Mental Institute 666 and his display name is Kill. So yeah, you can't get any more divorced than this. So last night I was informed by the prosecutor about this case, and I'm going to cover the parts of this that could potentially, be compromising to some sort of personal information of me or something. They printed out for me everything they had up until that point. And the last thing that they sent me was this, which was a formal request, basically a subpoena to Twitter for that guy's identity, because I already had that guy's identity. I mean, it wasn't exactly hard to find, but I guess understandably they wanted to get it in a more surefire way by directly asking Twitter, or X I guess it's called now, to send them everything they had on him. And after that, I didn't really hear anything back from them, but I also think they don't necessarily need
to be speaking to me about the progress in the case. So maybe they have made progress, but I mean, a relatively low priority case in a country whose resources were already stretched thin before and that are probably even stretched thinner now, given the mantra of the present government to defund absolutely everything. So perhaps nothing will actually happen with that, but who knows? Maybe it will. Maybe there'll be some justice, but maybe not. We'll see. So I was in communication with a number of the people who own the places where these people thought that I lived, or the residents who lived there at the time, because they had been getting packages for me from these people, sending them Israeli flags and dirt with worms in it and stuff like that. And one of them told me that someone showed up and started screaming about me in the street. It was more than likely this guy, though it might have been someone else who had decided to go there. This guy, by the way, is quite an awesome, swell fellow who really likes to post about how cool and masculine he is, and about how desirable he is, and how he goes on dates with teenagers who really, really love him and think he's really hot. Yeah, basically everything that I think we as a human being should aspire not to be. But yeah, so since then, nothing really super impactful has happened. I don't want you guys to think that I'm some sort of victim or something. I mean, I guess I am the victim of these people's harassment and stuff, but it's I have to think also about how has it really affected me? Aside from a day of me being a bit weird in the street until I realize these people don't go outside, and even if they did go outside, I'm not going to have much trouble with them anyway. What negative effect has it actually had on me? Because when you think about it, my channel has only grown since then. I've been working the whole time, making videos. So when I really stop to think about it, there's just not really anything to point to. Basically, both defamation, doxing, and harassment campaigns through Shirion Collective, Drew Pavlou, and the Argentine far-right one, they all failed completely. I don't know, honestly, I might be sort of gaslighting myself here into thinking that this wasn't as serious as it was. You guys can be the judge of that, how severe has this seemed to you? And there's more that we're going to be going over, don't you worry, because this is not the full extent of it. I've been saving a bit of it for this last part. It is obviously annoying that people are dumb enough to just make defamatory allegations of pedophilia against you based on transparently fake screenshots. One thing that I forgot to go over until now is the evidence that was provided for my supposed crimes, which Drew Pavlou retweeted. So let's check that out so that you can have an indication of just how stupid you would need to be to actually unironically believe this, rather than just be spreading it out of a desire to dox, harass, and defame. So this was the most direct allegation that these people had made. And you'll notice that this always comes from these anonymous, verified accounts, because that is how Shirion Collective operates, is they post this stuff and then they send it to someone with a bigger platform to share, so that person can have plausible deniability, oh, I didn't share it myself, I just retweeted it. And that's what happened here. So as you can see, this one directly said that I had criminal complaints for pedophilia, harassment, and grooming. And the evidence for this was a tweet by Infrared Has. So Infrared Has is this honestly amazing YouTuber who is totally over the top, and I don't know if he really believes any of what he says. He's, I think, most well known for getting into a bit of a spat with a woman over how many holes women have. But yeah, that's him making stuff up about me with 4 pictures of me for some reason. Very weird, but also very funny, honestly, because it's coming from him. Then the other evidence for this is my Argentine identification and tax number. Okay, what? And the final smoking gun evidence of these 3 criminal complaints against me for serious crimes is my Australian business number. You have to be lobotomized to believe this stuff, man. Come on. So it's obvious that this was just a malicious, fake, made-up campaign to defame me by Zionists, led by Drew Pavlou, who is probably the biggest loser in the world. The guy's 25 years old at this point. He's never had a job. He just spams online with embarrassing, defamatory stuff while getting paid for it by far-right millionaires. It's so sad, man. Luckily, at least in a smidgen of positive news, he is currently being sued for defamation by someone who's way more means to suit him than me, Hash Taye, an Australian pro-Palestinian activist who owns a burger chain there. So obviously he's a lot richer than I am, and he has, the sort of money to be able to go after Drew Pavlou for his defamation, and good on him for that. I hope it goes well. As far as I know, this is still in the early stages. This sort of stuff takes years in Australia, as it does in many other countries, probably most other countries. So we'll have to see where that goes. But, I'm not the only person that he's done this to, basically. Anyway, here's a video of Drew Pavlou's dad screaming at him, begging him to get a job.
Make sure that I can do...
Keep your fucking profile low, okay? Before
I don't care about a job. I'm just trying.
Fucking bullshit! I'm not paying for you to see a life, dickhead.
I'm fighting for what's right. That's why.
Just keep your fucking profile down before you won't get hired by anybody.
Anyway, so let's fast forward to more recent events, and this is the part where Kraut gets involved. So in December of 2022, I made a video on my second live channel called History YouTubers Are a Complete Joke. So in that video, I used 3 videos as examples of the argument that I was making in that video, which is that by and large, history YouTubers just have no idea what they're doing, are eminently unqualified to be talking about the subjects that they talk about, put in almost no effort, and basically, in general, suck. And Kraut was one of them. So I made a video like critiquing Kraut on the merits of the arguments that he made in one of his videos. I went over the claims that he made. I found out by looking up the evidence that almost all of them were just false, and I also did the same thing basically to 2 other videos. Basically, I was refuting Kraut's video on the merits of his arguments. I was planning at the time to go over that video of Kraut in more detail on my main channel, which I eventually ended up doing last year in 2024. Though rather than making this video just be a straight up response directly to Kraut, I used him as one example among 3 different, very different, in fact, creators, all of whom have made the argument that the Iraq War wasn't to do with oil. So Kraut is mentioned in that video for maybe 10 minutes at most. I think it's more like 5, as an example of people who deny the importance of oil to the war and their various motivations for making such arguments. I also, before that, made a video on my second channel announcing that I was making that video on my main channel. So this sequence of videos basically like broke Kraut apparently. Like he genuinely seems traumatized by this, and he seems convinced that there is like a cabal of what he calls bread tubers who are like plotting against him, plotting to like ruin his life. And he believes that like there is this conspiracy behind the scenes where all of these supposed bread tubers like conspire together to like unleash me upon him and other martyrs like himself as what he calls their attack dog. Fucking hell, man. He's just actually said this multiple times straight up, and also accused me of running a gang-stalking ring against him on behalf of Hassan Piker. Hassan, if you're listening to this, I just want to thank you for all the payments that you've given me for my participation in the gang-stalking ring. And please keep the money flowing. Which is a really weird conclusion to come to. For one, you aren't that important. For two, you're a public figure who posts videos about contentious historical and political topics on the internet. People have the right to respond to you if they want, whether they are correct or not. And yeah, it's just weird, man. Like, come on. So the other YouTubers who made videos about him around the same time that I did were Freda and Nodge Rants. And I don't actually know either of these guys, but Kraut seems convinced that we know each other and like conspire against him. I don't know, man. But basically, Freda's video was just refuting one of Kraut's videos. He went way further than I did. He focused entirely on a Kraut video, whereas I used a Kraut video as more of a short example of a phenomenon they wanted to address. And Nodge Rants responded to like a really sort of just plain racist. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It was a racist video where Kraut posited that the reason why Russia is more authoritarian than other countries is because it's influenced too much by East Asians, basically by the Mongols. And Nodge Rants thoroughly refuted that video, going into infinitely more detail than Kraut ever does, which isn't hard because Kraut is a YouTuber who makes videos that are just childish. It's the best way to describe them. They're content for children. They have like incredibly low effort animations, which by the way, Kraut doesn't actually even make himself. He hires other people to make them for him. And that's something that is just publicly known because he once posted a GoFundMe because he didn't want to pay his animators overtime. So he had his audience do it for him. And he just sort of says whatever he wants, never actually sourcing any of his claims. And when you look into where his claims are coming from yourself, it's always from the same like 2 or 3 books that aren't even works of history, they're works of political science. And Freda went over that in his video on the topic. So basically it's just a great example of how terrible YouTube history is. And given how simple and easy such content, where you don't actually really source anything or do any real research is to make, it's honestly embarrassing the infrequency of his videos. Rather than actually working on a video, what he's been doing is just spamming Twitter for months upon months. He hasn't made a video longer than 30 minutes in like a year and a half. It's all just
low effort, unsourced slop with shitty animations. It's frankly just embarrassing to be like basically what is neoliberal Western imperialist propaganda directed at an audience so that the aesthetics and like how complicated the narrative is, how complicated the research is, how well sourced it is. It has to be like directed at like an audience of like 14-year-olds. There's no other audience I can think of that this would be for. I sincerely hope that adults don't watch it. But anyway, so Nodrance's video, apart from also refuting Kraut's and that racist narrative about Russia that he was spewing, he also provided very damning evidence of the fact that Kraut basically plagiarizes huge portions of his videos. Like he straight up just takes passages from already questionable books and slightly rephrases them while not giving any credit or referring to the source directly at all. It is all presented as if it's just his own work. Also frequently just misunderstands or contradicts what his own sources are saying without addressing it at all, of course, because the idea isn't that you actually read his sources. The idea of him like putting a list of sources in the description is just to give the appearance of him having done research and having sources. You don't source your claims by just putting a list of shit in the description. You source your claims by, when you make the claim, telling people where you got that from, where they can find it, how they can confirm it, rather than just plagiarizing it, and for all intents and purposes, presenting someone else's words as your own. And Kraut is particularly sensitive about the evidence provided in that video regarding his plagiarism. He does everything possible to just completely avoid acknowledging that facet of the video, in fact, as it revealed with very, very clear evidence that he really does just basically steal most of his content. And yeah, we all know what has happened recently to YouTubers who were exposed for that. So he particularly wants to avoid that and attempt to draw attention away from it. You know, like James Summerton basically just dropped off the face of the earth after he was exposed as a plagiarist, and Illuminati's channel has become totally irrelevant since she was exposed as a plagiarist. Even Kraut's own audience posting on his subreddit have expressed quite a bit of concern with the pattern of plagiarism in his videos, and noted that Kraut simply avoids addressing it at all. So I suspect that this campaign by Kraut to frame himself as like a targeted individual of gangstalking by me and others is at least in part motivated by his desire to draw attention away from the plagiarism allegations. But yeah, so Kraut basically went crazy with like his hatred of me since I released that video on the Iraq War, which is especially weird given that it's honestly really soft on him and he's really not mentioned that much in it at all. I think it really gets to him that he's not capable of any actual response to the arguments of his critics. So instead what he does is like engages in this narrative that he spams on his social media, where he's like being harassed and victimized by me and the other creators who have responded to him. Basically like an elaborate gang stalking narrative. Like, according to him, I've been stalking him since 2019, when I confronted him that he used to be an anti-SJW YouTuber, and I then demanded that he go on my stream and beg for my forgiveness. Now, I think it's safe to say this never happened, given that I did not stream in 2019. I didn't start streaming until 2021. But like, if this was the first interaction they had with me, if this did actually happen, given that Kraut at that time was just 3 years off posting this stuff, where he just openly called for the genocide of Muslims and used racial slurs, which he dishonestly frames as just being anti-SJW. No, he wasn't anti-SJW. He was a white nationalist who regularly called for the genocide of non-white people. And I really do not buy this idea that he has reformed since then either, because the fact of the matter is that if you really hate Muslims in like the genocidal way that he openly expressed prior, then there's really no need for you to be that open about it. There's no need for you to like be a white nationalist who says that sort of stuff as he did before. It makes way more sense for you to be like a hawkish Western imperialist, really pro-intervention sort, as Kraut is now, as that is the ideology that actually really kills the most Muslims, as the last 30 to 40 years of world history provides more than enough evidence of. More than likely what actually happened is really just that Kraut realized that it really made no sense for him to just be like an out-and-out genocidal racist who would have a lot of trouble keeping a platform while saying that sort of stuff, when he could rebrand to be like a sort of respectable, liberal, hawkish Western interventionist, which is an ideology that is way better at achieving the goals that he has previously articulated quite clearly than the actual straight-up, open, proud, and honest anti-Muslim racists are. Kraut has all of these claims about me supposedly harassing him, and he doesn't actually have any evidence of it ever. Like, it's just, he just says it. And this is a theme, like he just keeps posting what is basically fan fiction about me supposedly interacting with him constantly over the years, and not just interacting with him, but like harassing him and stalking him. Like he kind of makes it seem like this is happening literally daily. And he's been like creating straight up fan fiction about like my personal life and my supposed real life interactions with people. And of course, there is absolutely no evidence for any of it. Like, does this seem like normal behavior to you? So Kraut was like so shaken by the literally one video that I made that mentions him on my main channel that he took to spamming pictures of me on his Twitter. Like dozens of times he would just post a picture of me with what I guess is supposed to be a joke attached to it. And yeah, I mean, just look at this stuff. It goes on for quite a while. I'm sure if this happened to Kraut, he would claim that it was harassment. Like if I was doing this sort of thing to him where I just like posted pictures of him with some sort of like funny text next to it, he would claim that he was being like harassed by me and like try to report me to YouTube or something. So it is kind of ironic that he claims to be harassed by me when he's doing this. Like this is like just weird and obsessive, man. Like come on. This very weird, bizarre, uncomfortable campaign of Kraut like posting my picture also coincided with him posting on his Twitter about how like there was some sort of like communist bread tube conspiracy or something, and this is probably my favorite one of those. He said, "I guess there is nothing worse to the communist mind than someone who prospers and succeeds outside their control. They either have to dominate over you or they will try to destroy you. They will never leave you alone. At least that's the lesson I learned here." It seems like he thinks that like basically anyone who responded to him on Twitter was like my alternate account or something. The guy just can't take criticism. For him, criticism, particularly criticism from people who are far more equipped than him to make historical content, which he doesn't really know how to respond to because all that he's capable of doing is rehashing the same tired arguments from free political science books over and over, which he just plagiarizes and adapts over and over again to different countries. And his way of dealing with that, rather than to just keep making videos and do his own thing, which he can do. That's what most people do. Most people never respond to criticism. And I mean, it's fine. Like, I've made videos about Johnny Harris, for example, another guy who, a lot better than Kraut, don't get me wrong, but, I don't really think he's the greatest YouTuber ever. But Johnny Harris doesn't, get debilitated when I make a video about him. He doesn't get debilitated when anyone makes videos about him. There's nothing stopping Kraut from just making videos, but he literally seems to believe that the fact that he has been criticized 3 or 4 times by me and other YouTubers is preventing him from making videos. He literally posted, "He could have just left me alone. I never instigated any of this. I avoided him in the entire corner of the internet he's a part of. All I wanted is to make videos about things that interest me." This was from December 19th, literally months and months after he had started spamming pictures of my face on Twitter. How does me making a video responding to you prevent you from making videos about things that interest you? So this is plainly just a narrative of self-victimization created by Kraut in lieu of him actually dealing directly with criticisms of his plagiarism and his bad history videos. Instead of that, he tries to frame himself as the victim of the people who made said criticisms with frankly ridiculous and delusional claims that require a massively inflated sense of self-importance to make, of him being persecuted by said critics. This is actually part of why I sort of held off on making a video about what happened to me, because I didn't want people to think that I was just trying to score some cheap sympathy points or some victim points, as I'd prefer that people actually assess what I have to say on its merits rather than just appealing to a certain narrative about myself personally. But anyway, fast forward to October, and Kraut posted, guess what? The defamatory screenshot made by Shirion Collective and spread by Drew Pavlu, trying to paint me as someone who enjoys certain crimes against babies. Kraut posted this in response to someone responding to him and saying, "Debate BadEmpanada." The guy he was responding to tagged a Twitter impersonator who they apparently thought was me, but the message is clearly, "Debate BadEmpanada." And Kraut thought that defamation of the worst crime possible was a proportionate response to someone telling him to debate another creator. And that was enough to set him off on accusing me of what is considered to be the worst crime in most human societies today. Apparently, that is warranted in the case of someone saying, "Debate this guy." Makes a lot of sense, right? And his fans, of course, followed his lead and immediately took to spamming that same screenshot everywhere.
Now, in response to this, people started photoshopping Kraut into that exact same screenshot. You can see this reply to Kraut, for example, which was posted on the very same day that he posted that defamatory tweet against me, saying, hey look, here's a Photoshop tweet of you saying that exact same thing. Both of these tweets are fake, and your tactic so you don't have to respond to criticism of the bullshit that you say is blocking those who do it and making up pedophilia allegations. So he was called out literally immediately and had his own claims about me turned around on him by someone who was attempting to demonstrate quite clearly that anyone can fake this shit. So maybe you shouldn't post fake defamatory stuff about others. So, if you're just gonna do that against someone else over what is ultimately a rather petty YouTube disagreement over historical facts and politics, then surely you're not gonna try to paint yourself as the victim when precisely what you try to do to me is turned around onto you with literally the exact same fake screenshot, right? But this is Kraut that we're talking about here. So he's certainly not going to say, oh, I see how awful it is to have this done to you now. I'll delete that fake screenshot that I posted. Please stop posting the fake screenshots of me. Sorry for that. Instead, he actually just acted like he'd never done that, and that he was the victim of like an out-of-nowhere defamation campaign led by me with all of my Gangstalking brothers who I personally sent to victimize him for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Turns out that Kraut found out it's actually really fucking annoying and distressing to have a bunch of people suddenly accuse you of something that you aren't, suddenly trying to paint you as the worst possible thing in the world, as he did to me, and as he continues to do to me, by the way. That was not simply a one-off thing. He not only reposted that exact same screenshot, but repeatedly insinuated that I had committed, like, grave crimes, and that I was only let into Argentina because they apparently don't do criminal record checks for migrants. Something which isn't true, but which he's obviously trying to spread to imply that the allegations that he made against me are true. So this set Kraut off completely. He was fine with doing that to me, but when it was done back to him, he wasn't fine with that, and he was hell-bent now on getting revenge. So the first thing that he did was spam a million tweets about how he was the victim of a vile defamation campaign that I was apparently inflicting upon him as a part of my many years long since 2019 harassment campaign against him, which he curiously never actually provides any evidence has ever happened. And it's honestly embarrassing for his followers that they just take this at its word constantly. Is this the new thing that leftists do now? Photoshopping into tweets, framing them as pedophiles? Just memory hold the fact that he did it to me? But anyway, so he started concocting this really elaborate, frankly bizarre narrative about me that I'm 100% sure that he got directly from the same Argentine far-right people who were doxing and harassing and trying to kill me, because right as he was complaining about my supposed defamation campaign against him, they showed up in his mentions with long laundry lists of my supposed crimes. And Kraut would just retweet and share what they were saying, uncritically saying it looks like BadEmpanada has been terrorizing Argentina for years and we never knew, displaying the level of critical source analysis that he displays in the rest of his content, just uncritically took them at their word, regardless of how clearly ridiculous what they were telling him was. So he posted that he got some information from a lawyer in Buenos Aires about the YouTuber known as BadEmpanada. BadEmpanada is already known to lawyers in Buenos Aires. That is a weird enough claim in of itself. Known to lawyers, just lawyers in general. So over the course of a few years, he has doxed, harassed, sent violent threats, defamed, and sent his audience through all of those things to over 50 people, all of whom, or many of whom rather, are from Buenos Aires. We'd like to see some evidence for that. Is there any evidence of this anywhere at all? But apparently I keep getting away with it for a simple reason. The civil litigation and court system in Argentina is broken due to decades of government mismanagement. So if you want to sue someone in an Argentine civil court, the costs and paperwork are enormous. You can spend years stuck doing paperwork and spending tons of money before even going to a single court hearing on any matter you may be litigating. And BadEmpanada takes advantage of that. As soon as he is served papers informing him that he is being sued, the person suing him is flooded with violent threats online, as well as threats and harassment via phone calls directed at that person, their family, and employers, which continues until the case is dropped. Every person who has taken the step of actually suing Empanada has basically been harassed and threatened into dropping the case. In summary, BadEmpanada is a foreigner who moved to a country broken by bad policies, takes advantage of those broken systems to enjoy impunity and zero consequences for any of his actions while living a good life on foreign currency earned through those awful actions. There is nothing one can do legally to have this person face any consequences. He basically operates outside of a structure of non-accountability, not only because big leftist breadtubers support him, but because he takes advantage of a broken country. Can you imagine, like, being so just mentally damaged by being mentioned for like 5 to 10 minutes in a response video to one of your historical videos that this is what you end up posting? This is absolutely insane. Like, absolutely nothing here is true. I have never been sued, not even once, nor has anyone even tried to sue me. And all of the things that he mentioned there, like, it doesn't make any sense for them to be litigated through the civil system anyway, because those are crimes, Kraut. I wouldn't be sued for those. I would be reported to the police. And he's constructed, like, this entire elaborate narrative about me getting away with all of these terrible crimes because, like, in his mind, Argentina has like an impossible, horrible, corrupt court system and nothing ever gets done there and it's impossible, blah, 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 which, you know, is just pretty transparently racist, I would say. Argentina has a pretty decent court system, at least by the standards of countries of similar levels of income. And, you know, you have to wonder, these are really serious allegations, right? Like, according to him, I'm served papers informing me that I'm sued. That's news to me. It never happened as far as I know. The person suing him is flooded with violent threats online, as well as threats and harassment via phone calls directed at that person, their family and employers. Why is there no evidence of this? Like, you would think that something like this would have a ton of evidence for it, right? And, you know, logically, if someone tries to sue you and like harass them and threaten them, that's also a crime which they could then report and get you in much more serious trouble than you were already in. It's safe to say that this is all made up. And I doubt that he talked to a lawyer, because a lawyer wouldn't advise him on like criminal matters being civil matters, because they're just not. He either made this up or spoke to someone who made this up or pretended to be a lawyer or something like that, because this is all insane. It's absolutely insane. Like, the idea that I am like the leader of like some sort of mass gang stalking harassment group that coordinates harassment of like 50 people all at once, and like I send my fans on them, which is interesting because my fans all speak English. You know, I make videos in English, all my content is in English. I don't even know how that would work. I don't think my fans really give much of a shit about Argentina. Like, it's just been endless weird like shit like this from him. Like, just he makes up fan fiction about me, honestly. What else is there? Like, there was one tweet he made that I honestly just find really funny. For the Argentinians who are just newly following, here in the English language sphere, BadEmpanada presented himself as the quintessential Argentinian, the expert on all things Argentina, and the most beloved man in Buenos Aires. It's so funny to find out how much you hate him. Have I ever done that? Like, have I presented myself as the quintessential Argentinian, the expert on all things Argentine, the most beloved man in Buenos Aires? Is that true? And what, like, this is like a deep lore video here. Like, this is like a 2019 BadEmpanada video with like 20,000 views. So he really went through my channel, like deep through my, like the old videos on my channel, just to find like a really old picture of me. I guess because it's really unflattering. Yeah, it is really, really fucking poorly lit. It is horrible. As most of my videos are, to be honest. But like, dude, are you okay? Like, you're not having a good fucking time right now. Just slow down and take a breath. What the fuck is going on over there in Austria? He also made a really funny claim where apparently I'm scared to go out into the street. Like, he said, yeah, buddy, an Argentine told me you barely leave your home anymore because people recognize you on the streets and shouted at you to fuck off back to Australia, gringo. He also posted saying, I'm getting to know many Argentines who hate BadEmpanada and just want this Australian gringo to get the fuck back out of that country. Really put perspective on the claims he made over the years of how beloved he supposedly was over there. Like, dude, what the fuck are you talking? None of this has ever happened, by the way. I've been recognized 3 times in Argentina. One of them was at Centro Cultural Conex, which is a really weird hippie live music venue that I never returned to. But it was like an American tourist who recognized me there and came up and said that he liked my videos. Another one was at Centro Cultural Kirchner, which is a really great, awesome state-run, like, I don't even know what to call it, like, I guess culture complex. It has like orchestras, it has like theater, it has plays, it has museums. It's like all in one sort of thing. The new government renamed it Palacio Libertad, I think, because, you know, right-wingers don't build new things, they just rename things that other people built. And I went there once and I asked like an employee, hey, do you know what the thing that we're going to is? And he's like, are you BadEmpanada? And I'm like, yeah, well, you know who I am? He was pretty young.
maybe like 18, 19, but that was interesting. And the third time was last year at the March of Memory, it's called, which is a march remembering the victims of the last dictatorship, the disappeared as they are known, desaparecidos. And when I was there, a guy recognized me and said that he liked my videos. So that's the 3 times that I've been recognized in public, at least when I was informed of it. And all of it was positive experiences. So yeah, he's just making shit up. Like, I don't even know why I feel the need to respond to it. You know, like, he's just making shit up with no evidence. Like, claims made with no evidence can just be discarded out of hand. They should just be discarded out of hand. And this guy is making claims with no evidence and nothing but. However, he did make some specific allegations there. You know, I am like a doxer, harasser, and I have tons of victims. Like, he actually said that he's organizing a Discord server to like get all the evidence of my crimes together. He did that in between making posts directly accusing me of running a gang stalking operation on behalf of Hassan Piker. I almost feel bad making this video, but also like, it's funny. Come on. Don't pretend you're not laughing at this along with me. I know you are. So Kraut's master plan is to like use this Discord server to basically dox me and apparently to like put together all of the dirt that they have on me and send it to what he claimed like a drama YouTuber. Like he said like he's going to send all the evidence to a big million subscriber drama YouTuber and they will make a video on me. And like, are you kidding me? Like, you can't threaten me with a good time, dude. Like, anyone who's ever watched my second channel would know that a big YouTuber making a video about me, I would have so much fun with that. It would be so awesome. Like, what, are you going to send the Willie Mac show after me? Maybe even Squeaky McGee? Maybe even Some Ordinary Gamers? Whatever the hell that street name means. I don't know if it's possible to threaten me with something less intimidating than the idea that some of the dumbest people imaginable, drama YouTubers, commentary YouTubers, have agreed to make a video on me. Do you live on another planet to me? It pains me that I'm kind of ruining this beforehand because it would be awesome if a drama YouTuber made a video about me and then I responded to that with like all the evidence that I have disproving all of Kraut's claims. So I do kind of regret making this video now, but I'm also kind of motivated to make it, and I want to get it out of the way now so that I can just work on things that actually matter, because you know it would be really annoying if I had to stop what I was doing to make a response video to some drama bullshit and I was working on something that I was really into, you know, really focused on working on. So anyway, before we get to like the main course, which is Kraut's evidence against me, I'd just like to point out that Kraut actually doxed me. He posted on Twitter insinuating that he knows where I live, insinuating that he knows specifically like my address, like the neighborhood that I live in, which is not something that I've ever shared, not something that he should know. The only way that he can know that is through doxing. So Kraut is a doxer. Just want to get that out there. And here you see him happily retweeting a lifelong neo-Nazi, something that I'll be going over in this video later, don't you worry, bragging about receiving my dox from the Argentine far right. I think it's pretty clear that in this BadEmpanada stalking Discord server that we got going on, there's a bunch of neo-Nazis, Argentine far right people, Shirion people sharing my docs, sharing basically whatever shit they can find on me or make up about me. Otherwise, how exactly would Kraut know where I live? And yeah, now let's move on to Kraut's supposed evidence. So immediately after Kraut went on his rampage against me after initially realizing that, you know, if you accuse others of the most heinous crimes imaginable, some others might turn that around on you. He almost immediately started reaching out to a user on Twitter called It's Croa or Croata. Now, this is apparently someone who I harassed and whose personal information I disclosed. So who is this person? Who is Croata? Well, do you remember those Argentine harassment and doxing groups I talked about earlier? And remember how I said that there has been media articles about them? Well, what would you say if I told you that Croata is the liaison between the government and these doxing and harassment groups? Literally someone who is a member of what are basically groups that are dedicated to harassing people, doxing them, and trying to incite people into killing them. Because that's who she is. That's literally who this person is. That's what we're dealing with. Here are a number of articles which will be linked down below of her being linked to these groups in a leadership position. So this is not something that I'm making up. You know, unlike Kraut, I have sources for my claims. And in this case, actual media sources, actual media reports, actual media exposés about these people. So basically the story of her is that she's like a rich kid who has been funded by her parents her entire life. She's like been studying law for 7 or 8 years now. Somehow hasn't managed to graduate in all that time. Doesn't work. She's just kind of on Twitter all day, and through being on Twitter all day, she's sort of inevitably developed a following by posting in right-wing spaces. Well, let's face it, being a woman. Just being a woman in a right-wing space is generally enough to get you followers, because especially right-wingers in Argentina, in this case, like what used to be the fringe right, but isn't anymore, not exactly known for having frequent contact with women. So she got followers off that, became sort of like an influencer, though I don't even know an influencer. What does she influence? I don't know, dude. And at some point, she got connected with Santiago Caputo. Now, Caputo is a friend of Javier Milei, who has been put in charge of Javier Milei's like digital espionage team. And that's a very generous way of referring to them, because it's basically a bunch of bumbling idiots. Caputo got to know Milei in the same way that like half of the people in Milei's government got to know him and got the positions that they're in, which is that they befriended him on Twitter. That's literally it. They befriended him on Twitter, and was enough for them to get invited into his government later on. It's pathetic, honestly. So you might notice in these pictures, before and after of Santiago Caputo, there's a bit of a difference there. It's an entirely new face, basically, but particularly the nose. So for this work, he needed an eminent plastic surgeon. And guess who Croata's dad is? This is public information, by the way. She's publicly posted this on her account, so I'm not doxing her or anything by showing you this. So Santiago Caputo got his new face from Croata's father. And Croata had been for many years at this point jobless and desperately trying to get into politics. And eventually, through Caputo's contact with her father, she got into contact with him. And now she works on his behalf, acting as like the middleman between the government and a lot of these organized harassment groups. It's pathetic, right? A lot of you guys probably haven't heard this about Milei's government. There is also an article about this in English that I'll link down below from the Buenos Aires Herald, by the way. It's like, what is there to say? Like, it is as pathetic as it sounds. Anyway, so Croata is the leader of at least two of these groups that I know of. One of them is called the Def Squad. The other one is called KFC. And these are separate but very intertwined groups of basically complete losers who sit at home all day, doxing and harassing people on social media and desperately trying to get someone to go to their house and assault them or harass them. And it was at her behest that guy, who I went over earlier, threatened me and ended up showing up at the place where he thought I lived. As you can see here, this is my supposed victim responding to one of the threats that the guy who I ended up criminally denouncing made against me, saying, "Make the fatherland proud. Kill. That illegal immigrant has been harassing us for months." Other excellent work that her and those under her have engaged in is there was an astrologist who posted on Twitter as like her main platform, like an online astrologist who would post like horoscopes and stuff, and she posted anti-Milei tweets. So Croata and the KFC group that she is in charge of targeted her with like a really brutal doxing and harassment campaign that is way worse than what they did to me. They first sent one of their members to her house who assaulted her mother and told her to make her daughter stop posting, otherwise they would all be killed. They then started posting her address on Facebook, saying that there was free stuff there to get people to go there, hoping that this would result in angry people attacking them when they realized there was nothing there and they'd traveled for nothing. And they also antagonized people online and then invited to come and fight them in real life, giving them her address, which resulted in numerous angry, violent people showing up at her house. They then organized X spaces named Group Masturbation Session to Aylin's voice, and then sent her a video of a man masturbating while her voice was playing. This video was sent by a man named Federico Javier Gorga. As his name has been reported in the mainstream media, as you can clearly see, it's not doxing for me to reveal it. Gorga's online alias is Barani. Remember him, because he's going to come up again very, very soon. The next month, they hired a company to hang a banner outside her house saying, "We love your voice," from KFC. Since then, they have continued to harass her, including by using AI to make fake pornographic pictures of her. Another of their victims is Javier Smaldone. Smaldone is a cybersecurity analyst who was using his skills to investigate the links between Santiago Caputo and the KFC doxing group. Once he began posting evidence of the connections between them and between the user Croata, Santiago Caputo started tweeting about him himself, and very soon following, KFC doxed his daughter, using the same modus operandi they had used against the astrologist to attempt to incite people to attack her. She received hundreds of messages, phone calls, and visits to her home. Then, Croata began attacking her as well. She tagged Smaldone's daughter on Twitter, accusing her of being the daughter of a pedophile and stalker. This was a very clear example of a coordinated campaign,
ordered by Santiago Caputo, with the participation of Croata's KFC group and Croata herself, in order to attempt to silence Smaldone from revealing her connections to KFC and Caputo. Croata hired pro-Milei lawyer and serial doxer in his own right, Alejandro Sarubi Benitez, to file a frivolous lawsuit against him, accusing him of harassment and domestic violence, in an attempt to intimidate him into silence. This lawyer, who Croata has openly praised and acknowledged is her lawyer on social media, recently posted about his intent to organize a new festival of doxing. These people are not exactly hiding who they are and what they do, and it is absolutely insane that Kraut has been communicating with them. Now, going back to Federico Gorga, do you remember those messages from earlier of someone threatening to essay my non-existent daughter and talking about sending things to my house? That was Federico Gorga, who again operates under the command of Croata. And here is an X space where Federico Gorga, using the alias Barani, the blue avatar, is speaking to Croata regarding which member of the KFC group will get the task of going to find my house in person. For some reason, they thought they lived in Cordoba, in a rather humble area. I don't know why they thought that. I've never been there before. But yeah, and that's why they're talking about their targets being from poorer areas here.
Yo no quiero plata, a mí mandame unos AirPods Pro 2 y yo te hago lo que quiera.
Pero déjame de joder, boludo, con unos AirPods de mierda. Pasa, ¿sabes qué? Que además nuestros objetivos nos quedan lejos de donde vos vivís, como para que me des una mano con algo encima. Sí. Porque vos vivís en zonas muy chetas y nuestros objetivos son gente pobre.
No importa, tengo auto.
Pero vos fijate, ¿no? Lo increíble es gente, acá, gente normalmente, no todos pobres, algunos con plata, literal divirtiéndose, haciéndole maldad a esa gente pobre.
Bueno, tenés auto, anda a repetir en la casa, ponele KFC, subite al auto y rajá, anda con un amigo.
And here is another space where these two organize what can only be described as the attempted murder campaign against the astrologer.
Digamos, está en proceso colocarle una capilla del Gauchito Gil en la vereda de la casa. Entonces después le voy a llenar la capilla del Gauchito Gil, se le voy a llenar de ofrendas con pedido ya, básicamente.
Un pasacalle también, boludo.
Ya le metí un pasacalle, ya tarde con eso.
Un pasacalle, no sé, una...
y
a los mariachis
otra,
también.
No, es un montón, Barrani, deja de gastar plata al pedo.
Todavía no. No, pará, que tenemos otro plan, pero ese es secreto porque es muy heavy y es ahora
pero
para
si yo soy la líder, o sea, yo tengo que saber todo.
These are the sort of people who Kraut is allying with. These are the sort of people who Kraut considers to be the victims of BadEmpanada, the members of the Victims of BadEmpanada Memorial Foundation. The first person who you reached out to is like the member of like a pro-Milei parastatal digital paramilitary dedicated to like doxing and harassing people on behalf of the government. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? And in case there's any doubt as to whether he knows this or not, Kraut straight up said yes, he admitted that he has been in contact with her and that, you know, he knows this. So there's no plausible deniability here. This guy knows precisely who he's talking to. And this is just a straight up malicious campaign to frame the people who literally doxed me and tried to kill me as my victims. Like, it's fucking absurd, man. But wait, there's more. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. Here is a screenshot from the other group that Croata leads, called Def Squad. These people invited me into this group, I guess with the idea of like getting me to argue with them or something, and then sort of forgot that they had invited me into it. So I was just like sitting there taking screenshots of the stuff that they were saying and gathering evidence. And at one point, one of the members of the group doxed my mother and said in the chat, "This is the mother of BadEmpanada." Another user said, "Is this real? I thought that was fake." And then Croata responded to that person with the full dox of my mother. So this person, who Kraut is counting as my victim, is someone who has been involved in dozens upon dozens of doxing and harassment campaigns, and including attempted murder campaigns against so many people, including against me, someone who has doxed my family members. But hey, let's give him a chance. What evidence does Kraut present to show that she is actually my victim, that I have actually harassed and doxed her? and that we have this all the wrong way around. So here is a post that Kraut made with an attached screenshot. He claims that this screenshot is proof that I impersonated law enforcement and threatened what he calls Argentine political commentator Croata, that's a very generous description, after having doxed her on her private phone number with demands to delete tweets that she made about me that I didn't like. So let us see if his narrative around this screenshot at all holds up. A reminder before we begin, he has posted this exact same accusation with this exact same supposed proof like a dozen times. He's extremely confident in this being like clear evidence of my wrongdoing. So firstly, if you see that censoring of the phone number, Kraut added that himself. It was not there in her original tweet. So the fact is, she actually doxed my phone number, posting it for everyone to see. Aside from that, Kraut, being a massive idiot, didn't consider the fact that she had messaged me first, which she factually did, because she had doxed my phone number using her access to government databases that she has because she is the leader of multiple government-backed doxing groups. So she sent me messages first, and I didn't respond until I had organized a new phone number because I knew that the initial messages were a ploy to confirm that I was indeed using that first number that she had found. Then, after she started a campaign to do what Kraut did to me, branding me as a pedophile and encouraging others to do so as well, as you can clearly see in these screenshots right fucking here, just still there on her account, which Kraut is too stupid to look for. Or honestly, I don't know, is that true? Or maybe he's just malicious and he's doing this on purpose, knowing that he's taking all this out of context. Note the date on this one, by the way. The same exact date that she sent her friend to look for my house and kill me. After she did that, I sent her one message saying to her, "Hi, Sophia. Today, we are preparing a complaint against you for falsely implying that I have committed crimes. You won't have any defense because the crimes that you were accusing me of cannot be proven. You can, on the same social networks where you committed these crimes, retract your claims and clarify that they were false. If not, we will proceed with a criminal complaint against you. And after that, we will denounce you civilly as well for damages. In a defamation trial, retracting your claims is only a defense if you do it before the complaint is made. I give you 24 hours. So aside from his pathetic doxing narrative already having been refuted, I clearly do not impersonate law enforcement in there at all. He made that up. I don't know, like, what is wrong with his brain, man? And the supposed tweets that he says I don't like are literally tweets where she publicly announces that I am a pedophile. Like, oh god, BadEmpanada, you threaten someone with a lawsuit for publicly defaming you as a pedophile and telling others to do it as well? Oh yeah, you fucking horrible person. Dude, what the hell is wrong with this guy? What the hell is wrong with the people who follow him? What in the holy fuck is wrong with the brains of people who just accept narratives like this with screenshots attached that just clearly contradict what they are claiming? Dear God. The average YouTube viewer and the average YouTuber literally is incapable of like processing information in the most basic way possible. This is absurd. Like, this is cancelable behavior. If there's anything that has been cancelable, it is collaborating with the Argentine far-right, government-linked Argentine far-right mass doxing and harassment groups and just blatantly fucking lying in ways that he knows he's lying. Kraut also openly said that he met up with one of these Argentine far-right people in real life, and he specified that it was a woman. So I think the question has to be asked, has Kraut been meeting Croata in real life? Because that is even more serious than what he's already been doing. I'm just speechless, honestly. Like, I kind of regret not letting him get a drama YouTuber to make a video about this, because it would have been an absolute shit show when I responded with this stuff. These are your victims of BadEmpanada, dude. These are your victims of Are you kidding me? Like, Kraut has done this thing where he posts a screenshot that clearly does not even remotely back up what he's saying about me, yet nonetheless just says it with his whole heart multiple times. For example, he stated this. At one point, BadEmpanada even tried to rile up Arabs living in Buenos Aires to attack Jewish neighborhoods. And the evidence for this is a tweet which says, "It's time to create an organization of Palestinians and Arabs of all religions in Argentina to defend their rights and to fight Zionist racial hate organizations. For too long, organizations like the DEA, which is the main Zionist lobbying/harassment/doxing group in Argentina, have had impunity and they're treated by the media as if their positions are serious, while they advocate for colonialism and, as happened today, even openly advocate for the massacre of all Palestinian children. Okay, so that doesn't sound like trying to rile up Arabs living in Buenos Aires to attack Jewish neighborhoods, does it? It seems like Kraut is just like making up fan fiction and posting a screenshot that is nothing like what he says it is. So what's the context of this screenshot? What's the thing that I said happened today, as in the day that I posted that on? Well, the leader of the Daya, which is, as I said, the main Zionist lobby group in Argentina, posted on Twitter saying that, as we will repeat ad nauseum, there are no civilians in Gaza, perhaps only the children younger than 4 years old. So yeah, this is what Kraut is defending, and this is what he seems to think it's like morally wrong to form a group to advocate against, and what he frames as riling up Arabs to attack Jewish neighborhoods. Like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is not only defamation, malicious and intentional defamation, where he's attaching a screenshot that doesn't even remotely corroborate what he's saying about it, and this is not the only time that he does this. He does it constantly, lying about it to paint something that's obviously fine, actually not just fine, but good, because this is an organization in Argentina that is dedicated towards spreading racial hatred of Palestinians and Arabs, to the point that they think that any one of them over the age of 4 should be killed. This is an organization whose members went out into the street to shoot homeless people for the glory of Israel. Quite a lot of context that you've left out there, and even in spite of that context, even without it, what's said in that screenshot is totally fine and nothing like what you said it was. And honestly, this is taking so long. It's like, do I really need to cover them all after that? Should I go over each and every one of these? I'll try to make it shorter because this is taking a long time. So let's go over the other Argentine victims of BadEmpanada according to Kraut. The members of the Victims of BadEmpanada Memorial Foundation Argentina Division. We have user at Babalu, and if you search his posts for his replies to my handle, you can see that he was actually a really early adopter of the Smear BadEmpanada with literally the worst crimes possible campaign. He was posting this stuff already in November 2023. Like, that's before the main campaigns of the Argentine far right and the Zionist campaign against me began. This guy's been like publicly defaming me and trying to get people to kill me for even longer than the others have. This guy is also an enthusiastic Gaza genocide supporter. As you can see in this screenshot, he says like 99% of them are gone. What he means by that is Gazan children. That's what this conversation was about before my account was unfortunately suspended, so we can't see what I was saying. This guy also showed up practically immediately in Kraut's mentions when Kraut started saying this stuff, and he has a bunch of screenshots that he responded to Kraut with, which are clearly screenshots of like group chats that he is in. These are certainly organized harassment group chats. So honestly, I think this guy is probably a part of like the originators of this smear against me, of the later campaigns against me. He's probably involved in those as well. The account is anonymous, obviously, so we can't know for sure. But like, this is your victim of BadEmpanada. This is your victim of BadEmpanada. You want to know what the worst thing is? This guy posted a clearly defamatory screenshot of what is either a fake Reddit post or a Reddit post that he or someone else in his organized harassment group chats posted to sort of make it sound like I had threatened to rape a 14-year-old and driven that 14-year-old to suicide as a result. The first time that this screenshot ever appeared on the internet was on this guy's account. This is obviously something that any of these dumbasses could make up, and given that there were multiple concurrent campaigns to accuse me of horrible crimes to try and incite people into killing me, it's really not surprising that one of them went this far and fabricated this. Now, you would think that Kraut would react to this with some healthy skepticism, like saying, okay, that's easy to fake. You know, where's the proof this ever actually happened? Beyond a screenshot of a now deleted Reddit post from a now suspended Reddit account that literally had not appeared on the open internet until you posted it in response to me right now. No. What Kraut did was share this defamation as if it were just sort of self-evidently true, totally uncritically, repeating the narrative that this organized harassment and doxing group member was spreading about it. If this is not cancelable behavior, then what the fuck is? So Kraut is thus far 2 for 2 on attempting to present like literally the scum of the earth, the worst people in the entire world who have been targeting me, harassing me, defaming me, attempting to get me killed as my victims. Let's see if he does any better with the next one. EU detoxic. Okay, this one's really funny. So this is someone who I had one single argument with because she was denying that there was ever a significant population of black people in Argentina. So I showed census statistics which prove that for at least a significant part of Argentine history, black people were indeed a significant portion of the population. So clearly, it is incorrect to frame it as if Argentina never had a significant slave or black population, because quite clearly it did have a significant proportion of slaves. Otherwise, how would 25% of the population have been black? Now, this doesn't mean that, as like a lot of weird Americans like to claim, like they're really oddly obsessed with racism in Argentina, that there was like a genocide of black people in Argentina. There wasn't. What actually happened is just that lots of people from Spain and Italy immigrated and no new black people immigrated, and there was no segregation, so people mixed and black people just sort of got diluted out in like this flood of whites. Yaqub would be proud. But it's still incorrect to claim that there was never a significant black population in Argentina, because obviously 25% of the population in the biggest city, and probably higher than that elsewhere, given that black people were more likely to be in more rural areas, is significant. And her response to that was not only to double down, but to claim that I was sent by the CIA in order to legitimize a future US invasion of Argentina, because apparently they're going to invade Argentina on the pretext that it's racist in order to steal its resources. I'm not kidding. These are real things that she thinks and has said just openly out there on the internet. So this person also runs a business that is a middleman recruiting business that helps American companies form outsourced teams in Argentina, essentially exploiting Argentines by paying them way less money than they would get if they lived in another country, and getting paid for it. So I called her a scammer because of that. And I would do it again, because I have absolutely no respect for anyone who is involved in something like the outsourcing industry, and even less for a middleman. And that, plus that one historical argument, combined to form her entire I was persecuted by BadEmpanada narrative that she is still thinking about today, a year later. Ever since we had that one entire argument, she has been like claiming to be like my harassment victim, and as soon as Kraut went looking for people who were my supposed victims, she popped up to throw her hat in the ring. Honestly, this is just pathetic, dude. But at least this one isn't someone who was literally like a participant or leader of a group that tried to dox and kill me, at least as far as I know. And this is like a recurring problem on the internet, where basically people think that like any sort of antagonistic or like not nice social media interaction is harassment. Their defense mechanism for when they are wrong about something, or when, you know, someone is criticizing them or someone just doesn't like them or whatever, is to complain that the other person is harassing them while posting on public social media platforms. Like, I genuinely think that a lot of people just are not cut out for using platforms where anyone could show up and respond to you. And that spurs that sort of reaction, like complete overreaction of like, oh, I'm being harassed, this person is harassing me, we have a vendetta against each other. No, I just argued with this person for like one day about something that she was wrong on, and she refused to admit that she was wrong. So I stopped responding, and then she kept spamming for days, weeks, months afterwards. Like, she couldn't stop thinking about that argument. She threatened to sue me for defamation because of it. I'm actually paid by the CIA to try and frame Argentina for being racist. So let's move on to the next victim in Kraut's list, Roa Mendez. And Kraut expanded upon his allegation here with a further post where he claims that I doxed Roa Mendez and accused her of horrible crimes with her grandpa. Now, Kraut actually edited this screenshot to remove a pretty important context from it, because his narrative about this wouldn't hold up with said context. He actually got this screenshot originally from the aforementioned organized doxing and harassment group member, Babalu, but he evidently decided it wasn't damning enough, because in the full screenshot you can see that Roa Mendez was part of the defamation campaign against me and started spamming me saying that I was a pedophile. There are many more instances of her doing this before I finally had enough and responded. She curiously started posting this on the exact same days that a campaign was started against me to brand me as such by Manuel Ignacio Tesson, a Javier Milei campaign manager directly linked to the government, which kind of hilariously involved him threatening me never to go to the neighborhood where he lived because apparently he would beat me up. I mean, just look at him. Yeah. So this is another member of the far-right organized harassment and doxing groups who was attempting to defame me in order to incite people to kill me for the worst crimes known to man. I made a suitably ridiculous allegation of the same sort that she was making against me. If you notice, the format of what I said is parodying the format of that earlier screenshot that we went over. This was to make a point that if you're just going to make shit up about other people based on literally zero evidence, don't be surprised if that gets thrown right back at you. Now, you might think that it is a bit childish to fight fire with fire like this, and I might agree with you, but then think about what you would do if you suddenly had like hundreds, if not thousands of people all publicly accusing you of the worst crimes known to man. Would you react in like the most rational, cool, calm and collected manner? Or would you like throw that shit back at them? I think most people would probably do the latter, if not just get outright scared into silence, which I was not going to do. So my options here were to like individually criminally denounce every single one of these hundreds of people, or to give them a taste of what it feels like when people do to you what they were doing to me. You know, judge me if you want. I probably could have handled it better. But again, your perceptions are kind of clouded when you have literally hundreds of people from organized harassment groups throwing this shit at you, including Kraut, who literally made this same allegation against me, which is what spurred the revival of their campaign against me. So what actually happened here, and which Kraut tried to hide the evidence of, is that this person was directed to reply to me by organized doxing and harassment groups, attempting to brand me as a pedophile. I responded to her with similarly ridiculous allegations to make a point that anyone can make shit up about anyone, so maybe you should be a bit more careful about it when you do it to me. And Kraut is now attempting to present this person as my victim, another victim of the Victims of BadEmpanada Memorial Foundation. So this is going to be a part of a pattern here where Kraut claims that I have like unjustly branded a ton of people as being guilty of those sorts of crimes in order to try to frame himself as like one of my many victims who I have supposedly done this to. But what Kraut leaves out is that in literally every single instance, those people did what he did to me. They attacked me, attempting to brand me as the worst kind of criminal imaginable. And then, when that got turned around on them, they started claiming to be victims, removing the initial context of them doing it to me. It's weird that these people find it so easy to throw out such allegations against me, which would kind of imply that they think it's just okay to do that sort of thing, and then it turns out that they aren't actually okay with it in the end. It is the most pathetic cry-bullying imaginable. Except to call this bullying is an understatement, because the sort of allegations that these people make against me get people killed. There are people whose lives are dedicated to hunting people down on spurious allegations like this. It's obvious what they intend to do when they're not just throwing out the word pedophile like a throwaway insult, you know, getting too heated in an argument, but making specific allegations as a part of a much wider, much greater campaign against me, as Kraut was doing to me, and as this person was doing to me. As for the allegation of doxing, she literally has her real name on her account. That's not doxing. Dude, what the hell does doxing mean for you? This user even later said herself that this wasn't doxing because she uses her real name, and it's not doxing to type someone's real name into a search bar when they go by that real name openly on social media. So again, this is Kraut trying to frame someone who viciously attacked me with the worst defamation known to man as my victim because I dared to retaliate against them in kind. And he got this information from a member of far-right doxing, harassment, and attempted murder groups in the first place. Yet even for him, that information wasn't enough. He had to manipulate the screenshot. It is very clear here that Kraut's intent was to collect a bunch of decontextualized screenshots and outright fake screenshots, create defamatory narratives surrounding them that often are not even remotely supported by the supposed evidence in the screenshots, and send it all to the famously stupid drama YouTuber community in the hopes that one of them would be dumb enough to take his word about what this supposed evidence presents and its supposed veracity. You know, he framed the leader of organized harassment, doxing, and attempted murder groups as little more than a political commentator, and me sending her a message threatening her with a lawsuit for defaming me openly as a pedophile and for her participation in the doxing and harassment groups that were trying to get me killed as me impersonating a police officer to harass her. And he framed me trying to organize a group of Palestinians and Arabs in Argentina to fight back against the overt genocidal racism of an Israel lobby group whose leader on that very day had announced that he wanted all Arabs over the age of 4 dead, as me trying to rile up Arabs to attack Jewish neighborhoods. That level of narrativization is insane. And it's even more insane that I'm like 100% sure that the audience of drama YouTubers would have been dumb enough to buy it. You know, they're not exactly the sort of people with the brain power to pause a video, read what's on the screen, and ask a question like, is it actually all backed up by what this evidence supposedly shows? In fact, is there even any proof that this supposed evidence is real? This is a very elaborate attempt at defamation that can only come from someone who is totally obsessed, mentally unwell, and just plain psychically damaged. Like, how powerful am I that one response video to you can do this to you? Let's check out the next one on his list of Argentine victims of BadEmpanada. So the next one on this list is someone I've never heard of with a private account. I have absolutely no idea who this person is, so I can't comment, but you can assume that this is some far-right doxing harassment group member, and who then played the victim when I responded to them, just as all these other people are. Like, they participate in doxing campaigns, they participate in harassment campaigns, they literally send people to my house to try and kill me, they spam the internet, accusing me of very specific heinous crimes, and they're the victims. Like, yeah, gotta be fucking kidding me, man. Come on. And then we have another guy, Fran Warsnop. Now, obviously, that's not his real name, but I do recognize who this is. This is one's like an old one. At the time, he was actually the social media manager of the Libertarian Party of Entre Rios' official accounts. So this is a collage that I put together back then of him calling people the N-word, or the Argentine equivalent of the N-word, using the word black as an insult, throwing homophobic slurs at people left and right, and I gathered the evidence of this, and I sent it to the Libertarian Party. Now, I imagine they did nothing about it because it's the Libertarian Party. They love racism. And this is who Kraut is framing again as my victim. Judge me by my enemies. Judge me by my enemies. I am happy that I denounced this racist and I would do it again. I did not do anything wrong here. The guy claimed that I sent this to his university. That never happened. I sent it, as you can see in this message, to the Libertarian Party. Though if I had sent it to his university, how exactly would that have been wrong? There should be consequences for just openly spamming the N-word at people on the internet, don't you think? And at no point was this guy doxxed. He had his real name on his profile. And this was actually why I got banned from Twitter for the first time, because rather than actioning this guy for being a racist, the Libertarian Party mass reported my post, which was adding them with the things that he was saying in quotes, like him calling for the death of all poor people and calling for the death of all black people. And they got me suspended from Twitter for hate speech, for quoting what that guy had said. Kraut, like, genuinely does not seem to consider the possibility that people on the internet might just be lying, and that this guy's narrative regarding his interaction with me could be him lying to paint himself in a favorable light, because the full story makes him look terrible. It's either that or Kraut is just willingly accepting at face value whatever these people say because he is on an absolute tear against me simply because he couldn't handle being refuted on the merits of the facts in one video that I made responding to him. Both possibilities are just pathetic and sad. And you'll never guess who fed this narrative to Kraut about this guy being my supposed victim, which Kraut then spread uncritically. Babalu, the exact same organized harassment and doxing group member who fed Kraut most of this other stuff. Now let's take a look at some of the other victims of BadEmpanada according to Kraut. We have Vicky1999. So Vicky1999 was a small YouTuber who, a few years ago, it was revealed, posted incredibly racist, anti-Palestinian, pro-Israel stuff in Discord. I saw what she had said, so then I responded to her on Twitter saying, you know, what's this? What is this? And that was literally the extent of it. That's apparently harassment. Harassment is when someone is just being a massive racist and you point that out to them. Like, what? Now, something you might notice that is going to be a theme here, especially from here on, it's already with Kraut, is there's a lot of people who genuinely seem to believe that harassment is like any sort of interaction with them on public platforms that is anything but like just glowing and like completely subservient to them. Like, from that one interaction, Vicky1999 created like a really elaborate narrative of being like a victim of like a targeted harassment campaign by me, when the reality is this was one tweet calling her out for being racist. Like, I didn't even consider this important enough to make a video on my second channel about. And I make videos on my second channel about like everything. And she somehow turned this moment, which was her getting called out for abhorrent anti-Palestinian racism, into this woe is me story where she was apparently forced to close down her YouTube channel as a result of being outed as a racist, which actually, yeah, that should happen. I'm glad. But point is, she was not harassed. I responded to her saying, hey, look, here are these pictures of you being racist. That's harassment. What the fuck? I think the worst part of that is that there was a time where like Vicky1999 attempted to make a return to YouTube. I mean, I don't know what I mean by attempted. Like, you can return to YouTube whenever you want. There's nothing stopping you. Aside from perhaps people not wanting to watch your content anymore because you were outed as a racist, that is. And she reiterated these claims that I supposedly harassed her in her comeback video. So then I finally did make one single video about this on my second channel, setting the record straight. This was the only time that I had ever responded to her bullshit allegations of me running some sort of years-long harassment campaign against her. There was 1 or 2 tweets calling her out, and then this response video after she came back and made a video straight up lying about me again. And then she and people like Kraut, of course, spun me, having the audacity to even respond to this bullshit that they were lying about me about, into being even further evidence of this supposed harassment. Give me a break. Not responding to her only emboldened her and made her think that she could get away with even more bold lies. I, in fact, regret ignoring what she was saying about me for more than a year. And in the future, I'm not going to do that anymore. Because basically, that is how this sort of defamation that Kraut is engaging in against me could possibly build up to this point. Because I have not publicly responded to the bullshit that these people have been saying about me. And that stops here. It speaks volumes that in Vicky1999's response video to my response, she does not even try to respond to what I actually said. She instead made a joke video where she just leaves the frame and just leaves the camera running for 2 hours. So yeah, I'm not going to endlessly relitigate this supposed drama, which was just someone blatantly lying about me supposedly harassing them in order to try to elicit sympathy and draw attention away from what the actual problem was, which was them being a disgusting racist. This is a theme with a lot of people. They try to claim that they are being like harassed when they don't actually know how to respond on the merits of the facts. When they put something out there into the public sphere, people have chosen to turn themselves into public figures, no less, like on social media, they have YouTube channels, stuff like that. And it doesn't elicit the sort of response that they want. They will start claiming that they are being harassed, they are victims, and this is the case for Kraut, this was the case for Vicky1999, it was the case for every single one who Kraut named as the supposed Argentine victims of BadEmpanada, and those aren't going to be the last ones. Another one of these supposed victims of BadEmpanada that Kraut has signaled I must apologize to is a guy named Spaghetti Cossack. So this guy is someone who pretends to be a foreign volunteer soldier in the Ukrainian military on social media, when the mere fact that he's spamming Twitter like 100 times per day makes it obvious that he's not actually a soldier at all, and he's just someone who is sort of sitting in an apartment somewhere while pretending to be one. Because I guess he likes the attention that sort of LARP brings him from uncritical people on social media who don't ask basic questions like, how would someone actively fighting a war get into the most pathetic Twitter arguments like 10 times per day and tweet hundreds of times per day for like 2 straight years? Anyway, so you probably won't be surprised to find that this guy did the whole attempt to brand BadEmpanada as like the worst kind of criminal thing, collaborated with the Argentine far right to dox me, and has since just sort of been openly talking about that, and also openly talking about how he formed a plan to like track me down and kill me. And he's like, man, it would be so easy with my particular set of skills that I have because I'm Liam Neeson, trust me. And this is Kraut's victim of BadEmpanada, who I extremely badly need to apologize to immediately. More important than all of that is that this guy is actually a lifelong neo-Nazi. And I don't just mean like an ideological neo-Nazi. He was actually a card-carrying member of the National Alliance, which was for a long time the premier neo-Nazi organization in the United States of America. He was a propaganda officer of this organization, And the reason why he moved to Ukraine in the first place was because he thought that it was a good candidate to form an iron state. And the main reason that he's so angry about me is that I made a video on my second channel exposing these facts about him. Well, I didn't expose them, but I covered them. Someone else wrote a great article going over all of the evidence against him on this, and it's totally damning. This neo-Nazi is someone who Kraut talks to all the time, who he actively promotes, and they seem to be like great friends, honestly. So, yeah, what more is there to say about that? Judge me by my enemies, that's all I ask of you. So who else does Kraut consider to be a victim of the vile BadEmpanada harassment gang-stalking apparatus? I shit you not, Vorsh. Yeah, Vorsh. I mean, I already kind of went over this earlier, but I guess it's worth expanding upon. So Vorsh is a YouTuber who makes really stupid videos where he claims to be like the ultimate representative of the left while actually just being a mainstream Democrat. And I have refuted a number of his videos over the years and also called him out for a lot of things that other people were kind of afraid to call him out for, like the fact that he sexually harassed a woman for a prolonged period of time and the fact that he had very weird things to say about images of children, which you know that I already went over at the beginning of this video. If making videos responding to someone's political content is harassment, then what the fuck isn't harassment to you? Calling out someone for the vile things they have said about children, actually said. Not like, oh, here's this fake thing I made up about BadEmpanada. Not like his fans posting made up shit to retaliate against me. That's not harassment. So pretty much everyone else on this list that he posted here is like a Vorsh orbiter. If you don't know what that means, I wish I was you. But basically, there are like these sort of personalities on YouTube and Twitch who are like bigger than others. And out of their viewership, some people like watch them and get inspired to like make their own channels. And then they sort of aspire to be noticed by the biggest streamer from whose community they originate and get given exposure by them. So there's like this incentive for them to be very, very nice to this big streamer and suck up to them in the hopes that they'll get noticed by them and they'll get some exposure from being invited on to talk about something or being shouted out or something like that. So you get like these very weird communities of like people who are unable to make content that stands up on its own merit, who spend a whole lot of time like defending the person whose community they originally come from, in this case Vorsh, pretty much no matter what, because they have no real audience of their own and they are completely reliant on audience overlap with the original big creator to get any views at all on their content. And every single person on this list is a Vorsh orbiter, as in someone who basically pledged themselves to like unconditionally defend Vorsh no matter what. And in like the Vorsh community and the Vorsh orbiter community, they created like this narrative where BadEmpanada is like this insane tanky doxer, harasser, whatever, basically as an excuse to just avoid ever actually responding to the merits of my arguments against them. So, you know, if Vorsh made a really dumb video and then I made a response to it, which Vorsh didn't know how to actually deal with, he could just say, oh no, I'm not going to watch that. That guy's crazy. And that's the environment that pretty much all these people come from, though. Honestly, this was mostly like 3 or 4 years ago that I'm saying this. Maybe some of them have escaped that prison by now. I certainly hope so for their own sake. So obviously responding to Vorsh's videos and stuff like that is not harassment. If you can point out what you think counts as me harassing Vorsh, please do so, because you haven't actually done that. So who else is on this list? We have Lonerbox. I mean, you know Lonerbox. You know who he is. I made videos about him recently. He's basically an enthusiastic Israel supporter, an enthusiastic Gaza genocide supporter, Israel's lawyer, I called him. He needs no introduction, and honestly, if this is my victim, again, like, judge me by my enemies, man. Like, this is the best you got. Like a guy whose immediate reaction upon hearing that a doctor in Gaza testified to having seen tons of toddlers shot in the head was to speculate that actually maybe those toddlers were 17-year-old Hamas militants, and the doctor was misremembering or lying in order to defend the Gaza genocide, in order to whitewash, to deny the mass murder of Palestinian kids.
I don't even think he's necessarily lying. I think when people are describing atrocities and horrors or whatever, yeah, they might sometimes describe like a young person as a baby or a toddler. Yeah, that's not, it's like, you can call a fucking 17-year-old a toddler if you're in the in the right mood for it, you know? It's not like an unusual thing to do.
What?
Yeah,
Dude,
sorry.
So my like original confrontation with Lonerbox like 2 years ago, and I'll go over this because it's also relevant to someone else in this list. Vorsh invited an out-and-out Zionist, ethno-nationalist, aristocracy TV onto his stream. Vorsh, who claims to be anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, by the way, because both of them had like this
shared narrative of like being anti-BadEmpanada, of having BadEmpanada make videos responding to your videos and refuting them. And to these people, like, the politics is just theater. It's not really the most important part about their content. What is really most important is appearing correct to their audience. So this served Vorsh's interest at the time to have someone whose views he was nominally against come onto his stream and like have like a little hug box session together to talk about how horrible and harassing BadEmpanada is. So Vorsh invited her onto his stream and suggested to her that she start calling me anti-Semitic for being against Israel and refuting her pro-Israel videos. Then after that, Lonerbox jumped into the fray. Lonerbox is another person from Vorsh's community who has since moved to being an orbiter of Destiny instead and relying on Destiny for his viewer overlap instead of Vorsh. But he jumped in there to defend Vorsh and aristocracy from the vile BadEmpanada harassment campaign. And since then, he has well and truly revealed himself to be just a straight-up genocidal Zionist who is like taken it upon himself to defend every single possible thing that he can about the Gaza genocide. So I actually made an extremely long, like 2-hour-long video about that whole saga with aristocracy, Lonerbox, and Vorsh, going over all the details with exhaustive evidence, and none of them ever dared respond to it. None of them even acknowledge its existence. They just pretended this never happened. And I think that speaks volumes, because the trend here is people making shit up about me, slandering me, in order to avoid actually dealing with the content of what I'm saying, in order to avoid dealing with how I refute them, in order to avoid the substance, the evidence, because they know they can't do it, because they are not interested in the truth. Whatever it is they're interested in, that's up in the air, but it's certainly not the truth. So Aristocracy TV is another person as well who spread this idea that I was like a wanted, heinous criminal who fled Australia to get away from my terrible crimes, despite there not being even like a single news article about this supposed international like mafia fugitive, all in response to her getting refuted on her disgusting pro-Israel propaganda. As far as I'm aware, she was actually the first creator to start spreading that sort of defamation against me. It was super prophetic, by the way, that I named that previous drama video and why it will happen again, because I knew at the time this would happen again, and it did indeed happen quite soon afterwards, with like a multi-pronged defamation campaign against me, and now a new defamation campaign against me by Kraut. And again, I don't want to relitigate this endlessly. I don't want to go over it in detail because I have a 2-hour-long video going over the entire saga. You know, go and watch that yourself and judge whether you think that is vile, horrible harassment. The narrativization here is insane, man. So who else is here? Shark300. This isn't the first time that Kraut has mentioned him as like a victim of BadEmpanada. So let's go over the details here. Shark300 is another one of these orbiters of Vorsh, and he was actually a pioneer, as he was one of the first people to start spreading these defamatory allegations of sexual assault charges against me. As you can see here, something which Kraut has never posted is him posting this on August 8th, 2022. This might even predate the aristocracy claims against me. I had like never actually engaged with him in any capacity before he posted this. So it was like an attempt to curry favor with Vorsh and his fans by accusing me of like the most heinous crimes imaginable, just out of the blue. Apparently thinking that as long as he says like allegedly, or in this case his own version of that, not confirmed but worth keeping in mind, he can just make shit up and say whatever he wants in order to defend Vorsh. Like that's what this is all about. Like this is someone who knew that I had gone over the evidence for Vorsh's proclivities with children before, and who wanted to stay in Vorsh's good graces. And the way that you do that is by attacking the people who had exposed that about Vorsh. In this case, by just straight up defaming them very directly with allegations that they are wanted for the most heinous crimes imaginable. Now, in order to demonstrate to dumbasses like this how easy it is to fabricate this sort of thing, to just lie about people, to throw that out into the world, I came across this image of him, which appears to show him admitting to the same thing that he accused me of. Wow. Now, you have to consider, though, that this is actually okay for me to do, just as it was apparently okay for him to do, because I said, not confirmed, but worth keeping in mind.
This is how these people are. Like, they sow and then they reap. And they have a lot of fun during the sowing, then find out that it wasn't actually that fun for their victims during the reaping, and don't seem to really digest what the lesson of the reaping is. Which is, if you do this shit to other people, don't be surprised when it gets thrown right back at you. The entire point of that video is like tongue-in-cheek, mocking, laughing the whole time. Not confirmed, but worth keeping in mind. If you're gonna do that to someone else, you're gonna just publicly post something like that about someone else, shit that you made up on the spot to defame them. And in this case, for the most pathetic reason imaginable, probably even more pathetic than Kraut's reasoning, like to try and get in the good graces of a bigger streamer to increase your audience overlap with them. How can you possibly act like you are a victim, like you were the one who was a target of harassment, when you did it first? It's exactly what Kraut did. He was so enthusiastic to post a fake screenshot accusing me of heinous crimes. But that exact screenshot thrown right back at him. Oh, and he's enraged. I can't believe it. I'm fuming. This feels terrible. Yeah, dude, how do you think it felt for me when you did it to me? And Kraut very obviously knew all of this context about this shark-free 0 thing, because the screenshots that he posted of it to his Twitter account are of the same video. So in order to get to that part of the video, he would have had to watch the part showing that Shark 0 literally said that I escaped from Australia to avoid sexual assault charges. He skipped past that in order to dishonestly present the same thing being done to Shark 0 in response, as if that was the beginning of it all. Who else is a victim of BadEmpanada aside from those people we've already gone over? Well, 2 more Vorsh orbiters apparently. Sock done left and punish mother. Now, socialism done left, I don't think he deserves to have the most embarrassing moments of his life relegated here. I'm sure that out of everyone, he has thought about them way more than anyone else combined, and probably sincerely wishes that he had never done the things that he ended up being called out for years ago. Ultimately, he never did anything particularly malicious to me. However, he was sort of used against me by his girlfriend at the time. I'm not sure if they're still together, who is actually listed here with the Punish Mother handle, and we'll get to her next. But basically, socialism done left got outed for like doing really weird, like racial / anti-Semitic cybersex roleplay. I'm sorry that I mentioned that. I don't really want to have to talk about this again, but I feel like it's important context, otherwise people will think that I'm like hiding something. And I made a video about that and like tweets about that. And I mean, back then he was like a really annoying Vorsh orbiter, like all these other guys who like just defended whatever positions Vorsh held, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what he's like now. I hope it's not like that. And that was like 3 or 4 years ago. A lot can happen in that time. I don't know where he's at now. I don't know what he's like. Maybe he's totally different. Maybe he's not. But this guy did not accuse me of like sex crimes or anything. As far as I'm aware, he did not participate in mass defamation campaigns against me. I think the worst thing that he did was like Photoshop my face into memes, which is fine as long as you're not like doing it obsessively like Kraut did. So I just don't want to like have this guy get like actually harassed by people who think that like he did something particularly wrong. Aside from being like a cringe liberal 4 years ago, he didn't. Ultimately, this guy just got involved in like the thick of it with me because, I don't know, he sort of felt compelled to like prove himself to the rest of the Vorsh community like these other guys, but he didn't do it in a super malicious way like they did. There was one time in DMs with him where I very much overreacted and said that I might dox him, but I did not actually do anything of the sort. I think he did end up getting doxed, but it was not by me. I was not involved at all. I was sort of playing off this image that the Vorsh community created about me of like me being like this hyper cool, zero cool hacker type guy who doxes everyone, no problem, in 2 seconds, which, you know, is hilariously untrue. But I do find it extremely funny how those people have like psychic damage to the point where whenever anyone gets doxed, like they assume it's me. And I'm just like years removed from anything to do with them, and they're still creating these ridiculous narratives about me. But yeah, I shouldn't have said it to him. He didn't deserve it. Like, he was annoying, but he wasn't as bad as like the genuinely malicious people in that community. Basically everyone else on this list. So yeah, I apologize to him and only to him, but not to his girlfriend who's coming up next. I feel weird explaining this to you. So, okay. Socialism Done Left met someone on Twitter, another Vorsh orbiter named Merrick DeVille, and they hit it off and they started a relationship together. A bit of a problem that they had was that people kept reminding them of the weird racist cybersex roleplay that Socialism Done Left had done, and they spun that into like a narrative of them being like the targets of brutal harassment from their enemies or whatever. 2 years ago now, FD Signifier like got Merrick DeVille to show up in one of his videos to like talk about, I don't remember what it was. And I left a comment saying like, okay, that's like someone who is the girlfriend of a weird guy with like racist sexual fantasies, and everything that I said in that comment was true. And then she crafted like this grand narrative, just like Kraut has here, with no evidence whatsoever, of course, of her like being a victim of my targeted harassment, like my gang stalking groups or whatever the fuck. Like, according to her, she was targeted by me for 2.5 years, lying and harassed behind like. This is what I mean. These people think that if you like talk about them at all, you like respond to them at all, you refute them at all, that's harassment. Because they don't know how to respond to what you're actually saying on the substance of it. Like, you know, I mean, how would you respond to like a Discord screenshot of your boyfriend doing like anti-Semitic race roleplay aside from just trying to play the victim? I mean, I kind of understand it in this case at least. She started claiming with no evidence whatsoever that I was an unsafe person and she was being harassed because I left a comment calling her out and expressing my disapproval that she was featured in that video. And she claims that I went completely nuclear and did something hateful and unhinged to hurt her. Which was what? What exactly? What exactly? Like leaving a comment on a YouTube video? What is wrong with you? And here's the comment, by the way. Tell me what about this is wrong? What about this is wrong? What about this should I not be permitted to say? What about this is harassment? Give us a break, man. She outright said that I was transparently an abuser. Apparently, she is my abuse victim. Because I left a comment on a video that she featured in talking about how she's not what she's claiming to be in that video. Okay. This also links directly to the Shark-Free 0 tweets. She claims here, for example, by the way, he got his community to make and release fake tweets calling one of my besties here. You see, all these people are just a part of the same community, as I said. They're all Vorshobbers. Shark300, a black man, a sexual predator because he didn't like Shark's commentary about him on stream. We already went over that, didn't we? We already went over what actually happened there. You see the lies, the mischaracterizations, the bullshitting. Is this the best you guys have against me? Judge me by my enemies. That's what I'll always say. She then goes on to say, it's at the point where if you like him and associate with him, I do not feel safe around you either. Get a real fucking problem in your life. What the hell is this? Like, I've been through the most vile Zionist, far-right, targeted harassment and doxing campaigns, people coming to where they think I live to kill me, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people attempting to brand me as the most heinous type of criminal imaginable. And I don't think I was ever, like, as shook about that as she is about me leaving a comment on a video being like, okay, why is this, like, racist colonialist being featured in your video? And just being allowed to speak as if what she's saying is uncontroversially true when it very much is not. And, you know, she feels unsafe. That's what really matters. Not evidence, not facts, just feelings. Just she feels like she's being harassed. She feels unsafe. She feels like she's being abused even. Do I need to take this shit seriously? Like this is the Kraut video sort of thing where you just say whatever the fuck you want with no evidence. It's all narrative. It's all I said this, so it's true. So, like, I honestly shouldn't even be bothering to respond to this because it's being said with literally no proof whatsoever. And quite clearly, regarding the Shark-Free 0 thing, a big point of hers that was apparently her proving that I do this was just refuted before I even got around to addressing her. People say shit about me all the time with literally zero evidence. Or, in the case of Kraut, we've attached evidence that literally disproves and directly contradicts what they're trying to say about me in their narrative. Honestly, YouTube is a pathetic place. YouTube and Twitch politics spheres are just pathetic places. It is like people who are not intellectually equipped to be able to actually argue, to deal with actual evidence, critical thinking, critical analysis, proper sourcing, anything like that. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, I'm not afraid to confront people when they're wrong. I'm not going to walk on eggshells. I'm not going to avoid bringing up horrible things that other people have said and done just to try and curry favor with their communities and the other people who orbit them. And these people can't handle that. They are used to like the aura of like the big community of like Vorsh, keeping everyone else in line and giving them like a nice little bubble in which they can be, in which they are beyond criticism, in which they are beyond scrutiny. And for them, I kind of break that mold. I kind of ruin the whole arrangement. So they need to just make shit up about me. Like, she posted like a 10-tweet thread about this and did not include a single shred of evidence. It's so crazy, man. So who else is there on the list of the victims of BadEmpanada? We've covered all of them here. I'm just going to check now to see if there's anyone who I missed. Oh, so there's this one where he says, this guy, InfernoBlade64, doesn't even have 400 followers, yet for some reason, BadEmpanada photoshopped a fake tweet framing him as a child abuser. So aside from the fact that Kraut did that to me, let's actually see what happened here. I didn't do this, obviously. This is someone else. This is a spat that this guy has with someone else. Like, I don't even know how he found this, because this is like a feud between Twitter accounts with like 200 followers.
As you can see here, what actually happened is that this user, InfernoBlade64, would respond to people that he was having feuds with Photoshop tweets framing them as the exact same thing that they've been doing to me for this entire video, basically. This is something that he did multiple times, going back to at least August 2023. So if someone made this tweet in response to him, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious it was one of those people trying to get back at him by doing the same thing that he did to them back to him. So Kraut is basically like so psychically damaged that he's just like looking for any instance of someone fabricating tweets of someone else and saying that I did it. Dude, what the hell? So one more that Kraut posted was this, accusing me of doxing Twitter user True Slazak, saying, "Even him? What did Slazak ever do to anyone? He's about as threatening as a poodle." So let's talk about what Slazak did to me. This guy posted on Twitter just openly, directly accusing me of being what he called a registered pedophile. This is the sort of direct, specific defamatory statement that is so explicit that if you make it in most countries in the world, you're very likely in big trouble if someone takes legal action against you for it. So I saw this and I responded to it saying, if anyone can help me with the information that I need to take legal action against this person, please let me know. It is not doxing if someone defames you and you look for what you need to take the appropriate legal action against them. And then it turned out that this guy was actually a politician, a national politician in France. He was running for public office while also bizarrely using his Twitter account to defame people. His face was like featured on banners, on pamphlets, being handed out everywhere. And people were trying to claim that I had doxed someone who obviously is undoxable. They are a national politician. I am this guy's victim. This guy tried to frame me as the worst type of criminal in the world. This is nothing but inversion of reality. Without fail, every single person who Kraut has tried to frame as my victim is someone who came after me in some of the worst ways possible and then ran back with their tail between their legs, screeching about how they're actually my victim afterwards, when I didn't just disappear like they'd hoped I would. I feel like most of this video, like after the part about the Argentine doxing groups, is just totally useless, but I mean, I felt like might as well address all of this at once. So here's a summary of this whole affair. First, I was targeted by Vorsh's community with defamatory claims of me having been arrested for heinous crimes. These allegations were later picked up simultaneously by the Argentine far-right and Zionist organized harassment groups who engaged in a brutal, malicious campaign against me to brand me as such again in order to attempt to incite people to kill me, which at least one person attempted to do eventually, and which hundreds of people were openly calling for others to do on social media. While that was ongoing, I made one single video responding to a video that Kraut had made regarding the history of the Iraq War. Me making this video caused Kraut so much psychic damage that he concocted an elaborate narrative of basically him being gang-stalked by me for years and years. He would talk about me incessantly, posting literally photos of me on his social media repeatedly over the course of months, all while I mostly ignored him and never reciprocated. Eventually, Kraut was set off by someone asking him to debate me, which led him to post a defamatory fake screenshot to accuse me of having, unacceptable proclivities with children. When people responded to him in kind by putting him into that exact same screenshot, he decided finally that enough was enough. The BadEmpanada gang-stalking harassment campaign against him that had been preventing him from making videos, apparently, had to stop, and he decided to form the Victims of BadEmpanada Memorial Foundation, gathering a list of all of the victims of BadEmpanada's most heinous international mafia crimes, which would then be sent to the most eminent drama YouTubers, who we all know are very, very qualified to critically assess information. I was accused of attempting to organize Arabs to attack Jewish neighborhoods because I tried to organize a group advocating against racism against Arabs in Argentina. But that wasn't even the worst of my crimes, because the list of my victims was truly endless. The leader of a number of doxing, harassment, and attempted murder groups, who apart from having directed and participated in many of these disgusting doxing and harassment campaigns against people who had it way worse than I did, also directed the campaign against me, both inciting someone to attempt to find where I live and kill me, doxing my family members, offering herself up as a candidate to go to where I live and graffiti my house, and personally directing the operations of someone
who sent me a DM threatening to essay my daughter, who obsessively tried to find where I live for like 6 months, and who kept sending random packages to the places where he thought I lived for that entire duration. Oh, and she also accused me directly of the worst crimes imaginable. This is going to be a theme throughout all of these. Then we have an anonymous member of those exact same doxing and harassment groups who had been attempting to brand me as the worst kind of criminal imaginable for more than a year before he finally saw the opportunity to revive the campaign against me by framing the people who had victimized me as my victims and handing over that information to Kraut. Then we have another person who just brazenly participated in the campaign to brand me as, again, the worst type of criminal imaginable, as a member of those doxing and harassment organizations in an attempt to incite people into taking real action against me. Then we have someone who argued with me about the historical black population in Argentina and was so psychically damaged by it that she still claims that I harassed her many months later when it was just an argument, and who genuinely believes that I am hired by the CIA to tell people that Argentina is racist to justify an American invasion. Then we have a libertarian activist who was just spamming the N-word openly on Twitter, and who I victimized by sending screenshots of his racism to the political party that he was a member of, I guess. Then we have a YouTuber whose racism I tweeted about once. That was apparently like a massive doxing and harassment campaign against her. Then we have a lifelong neo-Nazi who just openly brags about having doxed me and who claims to have my assassination planned out. This is one of Kraut's best friends, by the way. Then we have, I shit you not, Vorsh, Lonerbox, Aristocracy, Sharkfrio Zero, who said that I fled Australia to Argentina to escape sexual assault charges, the poor little victim. Socialism done left, the one person in this entire thing who was actually a dick to, Merrick DeVille, who, like Kraut, has concocted a really elaborate, just blatantly false narrative accusing me of like harassing her endlessly for years, based on little more than like the occasional YouTube comment referencing her, and the fact that I called out her boyfriend years ago for weird racist roleplay. Some random guy on Twitter who has nothing to do with me. A guy who literally just straight up openly accused me of being a registered pedophile on Twitter. I will never ask anything more of you guys than that you judge me by my enemies, and I think the Victims of BadEmpanada Memorial Foundation Memorial Wall speaks for itself. So, what could you possibly learn from all of this? Let's try to find at least something. 1. Evidence is way more important than narrative. Kraut's claims about me were entirely narrative, based on removing context from the purported evidence, or just straight up presenting evidence that did not back up what he was saying about it. If he was doing that so brazenly out in the open to me, it's safe to say that he does that in his videos as well, and many others are the same. If no evidence is provided, you should retain a healthy skepticism. And if evidence is provided, you need to be able to analyze it for yourself and think about whether the narrative surrounding said evidence is actually corroborated by it, and whether there's any indication of some sort of additional context that is being left out. And also consider the very important possibility that the purported evidence is just faked, or at least inaccurately labeled / presented. If I had left Kraut to have his way with the narrative here, one of the really dumb drama YouTubers would have ended up making a video presenting, say, Croata as just a young girl who BadEmpanada harassed for no reason and impersonated a police officer, sending her unsolicited messages to her private phone number, which he doxed. Yet that is clearly comically different from the actual reality. Think about how many people would have fallen for that, and try not to be one of those people. Kraut, you need help. You genuinely need help. There is no, mass gang-stalking campaign or harassment campaign against you. Everyone who replies to you on Twitter is not me. Refuting your videos is not harassment. You are not the target of the communist global conspiracy. I am not conspiring with the BreadTube global cabal to attack you. I don't even talk to other YouTubers. I don't collaborate with anyone. You have concocted a grand conspiracy in your head and maliciously attacked someone with what you know to be lies, intentionally decontextualizing your supposed evidence, and attaching evidence constantly that doesn't even corroborate what you say about it. You are collaborating with some of the worst people on the planet, all because you, as a public figure, a YouTuber with 600,000 subscribers who makes ideologically tinged, low-quality, unsourced history videos with childish animations, consider people responding to you to be harassment. Instead of spending months obsessed with me, instead of starting organized harassment and doxing discords to gather evidence against me and totally own me, put some effort into your content. You haven't made anything in like 5 months. What do you even do with your time? Because it's certainly not work. Even after Kraut has targeted me with what I think is pretty clearly an organized attempt at mass harassment, an organized attempt to just straight up lie about someone because you have a political vendetta against them. I still don't consider myself like a victim of a harassment campaign as he does, and I certainly would be more warranted to do that because ultimately, how has this affected me? If anything, it's probably going to benefit me because I get to make this video about it, which is honestly probably pretty funny for you guys to watch. Probably pretty ridiculous that like every single claim that Kraut made, like every single supposed victim of BadEmpanada, turned out to be anything but, and that I have receipts for every single one of them. Overall, like my advice to public figures, particularly like social media influencers in the political space, would be don't take yourself that seriously, particularly when the content you make, like Kraut's content, really isn't that serious, because you risk becoming just like him, and you don't want to be like him. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then I first need to ask you, why do you enjoy so much watching the horrible, self-destructive downfall of a broken man? But anyway, make sure to subscribe for more not quite like this. And if you really liked this video and are actually thinking of becoming a member of the BadEmpanada International Gangstalking criminal ring, you can do that by sending me a monthly monetary contribution on Patreon or Ko-fi, or sending me a one-time donation on Ko-fi. Now I'd just like to thank all of my gangstalkers, but especially my $25 plus gangstalkers, Jordy, Alexa Nopt, Communist Functionary, S, the Son of Sandy, Ya Makamut Ya Habib, Jakagora, Lucian, Osman Malik, Qualia, Robocommy, Brosnan, Jel Cribson, Christian Corniels, Can't Care Less, XXXX, Eric Makdans, Yugopnik, Nabiru, B, Johnny Rocket, Firefox42, Happy Nephron, Minijan, Eric Perkins, Ant, Max Halland, Jack Paul, Louis Bravo, Kieran Goodwin, Megan Lowndes. God, I have a lot of gang stalkers. Soyborn, Comrade Nutboulet, Clement Fudge, Hector Obregon, Asma B, Support Libraries, Jizdog, Cockled Badger, T Street, Aramis Goodspiel, Noah Larson, You Can Change Your Name, Bicep, Gavagundam 4444, Bubbly T, Adrian Nesu, The Big L, Goyo, Lorenzino, Lee Breeze, Robin, Gareth Miguel, K, Pacifist2346, Mira, Atuin, Urculano, and the Empanada Brigades. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to show up Thursday for our weekly gangstalking debriefing.